Nation, you can find many more episodes of The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including ones with Antonio Guterres, Secretary-General of the United Nations, and Taiwan's Cyber Ambassador, Audrey Tang. Until the next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was the...
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live downtown in Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. 3 minutes to 6 o'clock, and look at the cold spot to Dooley Lake, minus 34 this morning. The warm spot's Melita. Here in the south, we're still mild. It's minus 2 there. Winnipeg's minus 11. Over in Brandon, it's minus 7 this morning with some cloud cover, and then back up north in Thompson, clear and minus 29. Our temperature in Winnipeg's actually going to fall today with a little bit of, well, not a little bit, with some gusty winds picking up for us as well. Thanks for joining the morning show. We're on until 8:37 a.m. Let's say good morning to the team. Mr. Darren Marash. Hello. Darren making his triumphant return. He produces YouTube if you're watching our stream. Good morning to May McKillop. Speaking of triumphant returns, May is our director this morning for the show. In the studio control room, also Mr. Avi Adiyemi, who's our senior tech covering weather traffic this morning on InfoRad. Josh Crabb is filling in for Heather Wells this morning, and he brings our headlines. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Marcy. There have been no updates from RCMP overnight on the manhunt for Joshua Papanakis and the search for 20-year-old Rayanne Thomas, who was abducted in Pimicikamet Cree Nation. Mountie said yesterday Thomas was in immediate danger, and police put out a dangerous person alert for Papanakis. A nurse says safety improvements at St. Boniface Hospital are enough for him to vote against greylisting the facility. The Manitoba Nurses Union previously said safety concerns spark the vote, which will allow nurses to decide whether they want to designate the hospital as an unsafe place to work. And a judge dismissed a complaint against Winnipeg police just over a month after a rare public hearing. The complaint was filed through an independent agency that reviews police misconduct. Most complaints like it are dismissed before getting a judicial hearing. Your next local CBC News is at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Josh with us throughout the morning. You know what else is with us throughout the morning? Olympic updates. That begins today at 25 past the hour as we get ready for the opening ceremonies in Milano Cortina. We'll tee up the action as well with a full interview to start the show. A little bit later, Premier Wab Kinew will join us for his monthly check-in after 8. We'll see if he'll tell us anything more about who is interested in Churchill development and also whether or not the province can pony up in a new way to help cities in Manitoba struggling with more stable funding, including Winnipeg. So stay tuned. We're going to talk more about those two things with Wab Kinew, who will be here. And then we'll hear how the Winter Olympics will be reported through the eyes of a kid.
On cue.
I'm Garby Bailey in for Tom Power. After 8 years away, Tattoo Cardinal is returning to the stage in the new production, Witch.
She is an actual person that lived way back then.
Tattoo will be here to talk about the joy she's getting from this work, the themes of resilience in the story, and the connection she's finding with the character she plays.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott.
The greatest show on earth is coming to Italy.
The Milano Cortina Winter Games are officially underway, with the opening ceremony set to begin in just a few hours. While the full program is a closely guarded secret, the gala will feature a mixture of traditional opera and global pop icons. It's a massive celebration of culture before the focus turns to the competition itself. Jennifer Heil, Team Canada's chef de mission, says this country's athletes are ready to take center stage.
Canada's Olympic athletes are a rare kind of power. They unite us and they show the world what Canada looks like under pressure. Proud, respectful, relentless.
The ceremony begins at 2 p.m. Eastern, kicking off 2 weeks of international competition in northern Italy. Canada's officially re-establishing a diplomatic presence in Greenland today, a move being framed as a vital step for Arctic sovereignty. The Governor-General and Foreign Minister are in Nuuk for the opening of a new consulate, joined by a large delegation of Inuit leaders from across the Canadian North. The mission comes at a time of renewed international interest in the island's strategic and political future. The CBC's Chris Brown is in Nuuk.
Greenland hasn't seen a delegation from Canada quite like this before. More than 75 Inuit waving the red and white flags of Canada and Greenland. stepped off their flight into a nuke snowstorm Thursday in an unusual show of political solidarity. Inuit organizations chartered the plane, calling U.S. President Donald Trump's claim to Greenland illegitimate.
I think that put an urgency for Canada from a diplomatic sense.
Natan Obid is the head of Inuit Taprit Kanatami, which speaks for Canadian Inuit.
I'm really hoping that some of the silver linings in this case are that Canadian government more completely understands the urgency of Inuit diplomacy.
The new Canadian consulate is being welcomed by many Greenlanders, including those who want independence rather than remaining as part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Juno Berthelsen is an opposition politician.
Canada is a very important future partner for Greenland. So an independent Greenland should have a partnership with North American countries, meaning both the U.S. and Canada.
Berthelsen says a better connected Greenland will make independence more attractive when the day comes to choose. Global Affairs Canada says its new consulate will focus on trade, security, and climate change in the Arctic. Chris Brown, CBC News, Nuuk.
High-stakes negotiations between Iranian and U.S. officials over Tehran's nuclear program are underway in Oman. Donald Trump's threat of military action hangs over the talks, a move that has placed regional stability at the forefront of the agenda. CBC senior correspondent Margaret Evans has more from northern Iraq.
The two long-term foes have both gone into the talks professing their willingness to let diplomacy have a chance. But the entire region is watching with genuine fear that conflict could be just around the corner. Nayaz Barzani is the foreign affairs advisor to the Kurdish presidency in northern Iraq, which shares a 200-kilometer border with Iran, just a fraction of the overall Iran-Iraq border.
So if there is another war, and especially a regional war, it will have devastating impacts on the security economy of all these countries.
Iran and the U.S. don't even agree on what the scope of the talks should be. Tehran wanting to keep negotiations to its nuclear program. Washington insisting that everything be on the table, including Iran's ballistic missiles, its support for regional proxies, and its treatment of its own people. The start of talks took place indirectly through mediators. Analysts say Iran will be hoping to play for time, to drag out talks long enough to see U.S. military threats fade into the distance. Some say Washington will also be hoping to extend the clock, to give it time to consider the ramifications of any military action, especially if it's aimed at regime change. Former Iraqi Foreign Minister Hoshyar Zebari says U.S. President Donald Trump injects an added element of uncertainty.
Well, this administration is unpredictable, and it does what it thinks it's right. So many people see this meeting as make or break.
He's not convinced of that, but he does believe that today's meeting will indicate the direction of travel. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Erbil, Northern Iraq.
More now on those 7 Toronto police officers among dozens of people charged in that massive corruption probe involving allegations of organized crime and a murder plot. And in a major shift, Toronto's chief of police says he's moving to ensure at least some of them don't get paid while they're suspended. The change to Ontario law 2 years ago made that possible following decades of public outcry over millions in taxpayer dollars going to officers charged with crimes. Lorenda Redekop has more on the story.
It was a line people in Ontario aren't used to hearing from a police chief.
At least 4 of the 7, I will be seeking suspension without pay.
That's Toronto's chief, Myron Demkew, speaking at a news conference yesterday. For years in Ontario, anytime an officer was charged, they were always suspended with pay. Demkew says he's looking into his legal authority, and even more of those charged could lose their salary. Police chiefs in Ontario lobbied to be allowed to suspend without pay. Other police forces, including the RCMP, have had that power for years. And in 2024, the Doug Ford government passed legislation, but it only applies for the most serious charges. Under the law, an unpaid suspension first has to be approved in a hearing. Premier Doug Ford was asked about so many officers charged.
It's disturbing. It's very, very disturbing.
As for the unpaid suspensions, he says that's up to the police chief.
I have confidence he's going to make the right decision. I don't direct the police, and that's going to be up to the chief.
Chief Demkew has written to the province's independent Inspector General of Policing. asking him to look into 5 separate areas of the police service. But the Ontario Liberal Party wants a larger investigation with a full independent inquiry to identify any systemic failures and recommend changes. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
3 young people in Nova Scotia are facing sexual assault charges following alleged hockey hazing incidents. The RCMP says it has identified at least 3 victims, and investigators believe there could be more. Kayla Hounsell has the latest.
It is the latest example of alleged misconduct in Canada's national game. The RCMP says a youth reported being assaulted during a private team gathering in October. Investigators now believe offenses also occurred at other locations.
These are serious criminal offenses.
Staff Sergeant Mark Rose says the investigation is related to hazing incidents involving a hockey team in the Truro area, around 100 kilometers northeast of Halifax. He says officers have identified at least 3 victims, and there could be more.
We'll listen to them, we'll help them in the criminal justice process if required, or we'll just get them resources and help.
3 youths are facing criminal charges, including sexual assault with a weapon. Hockey Nova Scotia says it also immediately referred the matter to Hockey Canada's independent third party, which was established in 2022 to administer these kind of complaints.
Unfortunately, I'm not that surprised.
Author Laura Robinson has been researching sexual assault in hockey for decades. She says a significant cultural shift is still needed, but acknowledges work is being done to try to understand why the problem persists.
What has been created is an environment where boys and young men feel that they can come forward now with allegations of very serious assault and sexual assault from their own teams.
Hockey Nova Scotia says while the matter is under investigation, the youth hockey team has been suspended. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
And finally today, the eyes of the world are on Milan's San Siro Stadium for the start of the 2026 Winter Games. While the Parade of Nations is the heart of the ceremony, it's an American pop icon who's providing the most talked about musical moment.
I am a dream, just beginning. Truth is I prayed and you opened my eyes.
Mariah Carey is the international headliner, but she isn't singing her own chart toppers. At the request of Italian organizers, Carey agreed to perform an entire set in Italian, including the legendary classic Volare.
Volare. Oh, cantare.
It's a move described as a brave tribute to the host nation's heritage. She joins Italian legends Andrea Bocelli and Laura Pausini, all under the title of Harmony. It's a high note start to 16 days of competition. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
I feel bad we faded that out. I was grooving along. Welcome to Friday morning, everyone. I'm RC Marcusa. This is Information Radio. It's February 6th. You're on CBC. 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app and YouTube. So 16 days, what should we watch for? And if you're at the water cooler, what are the cool facts about Team Canada and these games that you might want to know and just casually put out there today as you're talking with your coworkers and friends? We'll tee up the games with one of our reporters who's going to be covering things. She's going to be joining us. Mackenzie Barwell is here in just a couple of minutes for that. Also this hour on Information Radio, coming up after 6:30, young Canadians are increasingly being priced out of starter homes, and it is having implications on their lives. And on Canadian society as a whole, actually. We'll chat with an economist exactly about the context around that and about why and what's happening right now for 2026. Stay with us. It's all still ahead right here on CBC's Morning Show. First, Josh Crabb with other developing stories. Good morning.
Good morning. Police are still looking for 39-year-old Joshua Papanakis. The RCMP alleges a 20-year-old, Rayanne Thomas, was violently abducted in Pimicikamak Cree Nation, and officers put out a dangerous person alert yesterday for Papanakis. In what they say is a case of intimate partner violence, the search is focused on the Northern First Nation, but investigators say they may be elsewhere. A massive infrastructure project is slated to change the lives of people living in 13 communities in southeast Manitoba. A contract for a new $205 million wastewater treatment plant near Niverville was signed this week. I'll tell you how it could help accommodate growth in the area. And Brandon is starting work on a plan to boost tourism. City Council recently approved $60,000 to develop a strategy so they know where to spend money and develop what's already there. Your next local CBC News is at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
And just ahead of the news this morning, I need to mention this. For the next 16 days here, at the 25 past the hour mark, we will have Olympic updates. So that's what you're going to hear here on the radio, and that will take us right into your local news at the bottom of the clock. Right now, Abby Adeyemi's here to tell us about the Friday forecast. Hey.
Yeah, Marcy. While the southern part of the province still enjoying the spillover of the warm conditions we started enjoying yesterday, that will take us into the weekend. Up north, some regions really waking up to a freezing start. Bitter cold gripping parts of the region this morning as we see temperatures down south begin to fall. We have this yellow warning for extreme cold in effect for regions around Tuduli Lake. We're talking about morning wind chills around minus 45 this morning. So this is like frostbite in minutes for folks in that part of the province. Looking at actual conditions in Tuduli Lake this morning, we're seeing minus 34 in some areas and some regions tracking minus 36. So you need to take care if you are there. For Winnipeg right now, we're looking at temperatures around minus 11. Cloudy skies we do have that will stay with us all morning. Temperatures expected to hover around minus 15, though the city will see some clear conditions as we get deeper into the morning. Then we'll see some winds come from the north. Temperatures actually will fall to about minus 17 by the afternoon period. And across the southern regions, we're looking at minus 15 near Brandon with sunny conditions coming towards Gimli. Also highs around minus 17. Up north, we're seeing minus 24 in Thompson, minus 23 in Churchill, and about minus 35 now in Tuduli Lake. But overall, the north is waking up to those Arctic wind chills coming your way, while down south we're still seeing the warm conditions around minus 11.
I know you're going to give us the traffic commuter number in a moment. I just want to mention when I was walking today, it was not bad. It's a little bit icy out there, especially if you're walking over those snowy parts. You've got that crusty ice part.
Yeah, due to the melt we saw yesterday and then the winds coming in today, which will definitely make things a bit crusty. You need to take it easy. Give yourself enough braking time. Yes, it might look bare on the roads, but still give yourself braking time. And of course, if you're walking on the sidewalks, some spots might still be slippery, so take it easy. You see anything out there you want us to know, give us a call, 788-3093.
Well, there's no turning back now. After all the prep and training, the qualifying, the traveling, the years of work, Canadian athletes are about to compete on the biggest sporting stage in the world. The Olympic Winter Games Milano Cortina 2026 about to get underway. Opening ceremonies tonight, and 4 athletes from Manitoba representing to talk about the games and what we should watch for. We are joined now by Mackenzie Barwell. She is part of CBC's Olympic coverage team. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So today's the day. Let's start with opening ceremonies, the host country. What do we need to know about that?
Today is the day. It kind of felt like Christmas morning when I woke up, not going to lie. Opening ceremony in Italy, of course. This is the 3rd time that Italy will host the Winter Olympics, so they are more than familiar with this event. The first of which came in 1956 and then 2006 in Torino. The opening ceremony, the theme is harmony. It is a celebration of Italian identity, creativity, and tradition. And actually, it's the first ever multi-centered Winter Games opening ceremony. So it'll be shared across 4 separate places. And we've got 2 Olympic cauldrons that will be lit simultaneously, one in Milan and then the other in Cortina. And in true opening ceremony fashion, we've got a lot of entertainment to look out for. We've got major performers and Italian celebrities, as well as some international stars. Mariah Carey, probably a fan favorite. And our CBC coverage opens on 1:30 p.m. Eastern for the pre-show. And then the ceremony is live at 2 p.m. Eastern with our hosts, Adrian Arsenault and Devin Haru.
All right. So for us, that's an hour earlier. 12:30 and 1 o'clock is what you're looking for, folks. Who's carrying the Canadian flag?
Yeah, we've got two Olympic flag bearers. The Olympic champions, Marielle Thompson and Mikhail Kingsbury, have been named Team Canada's flag bearers for the Milano Cortina 2026 opening ceremony. It'll be their fourth Olympic Games for both of them after making their debuts at Sochi 2014. And for Marielle Thompson, her journey has been all about resilience. She won gold in women's ski cross at Sochi. Then she competed at Pyeongchang in 2018, just 4 months after a major knee surgery. Then she was back on the podium again at Beijing, taking silver less than a year after another ACL tear. So she has proven she is absolutely resilient and can bounce back from injury and be successful doing so. So she's a leader going into these Winter Olympics. And then Mikhail Kingsbury, just quickly, he is another name demanding a lot of attention right now. He's medaled at every Olympics he's competed in. He's opened with silver at Sochi 2014, then won gold at Pyeongchang in 2018, and added another silver at Beijing 2022. He became the first male mogul skier to win 3 Olympic medals. And just last month, he actually became the first freestyle skier to reach 100 career World Cup podiums, or wins, I should say, sorry.
Let's get to what people like for the water cooler chat while the Olympics are on. What are the fun facts related to Team Canada heading into the Games?
Yes, water cooler chat's a good way to put it. We've got some cool human interest stories to keep an eye out for. We have 207 Canadian athletes competing and 4 sets of siblings on our Olympic roster. Not to mention, we also have 8 Canadian athletes competing in Milano Cortina who are the children of Olympians. So some legacy athletes, if you will. And then a cool one, too, is Kelsey Mitchell. She is said to become Canada's latest dual-season Olympian. She competed at the Summer Games in track cycling, both Tokyo 2020 and Paris 2024, having won Olympic gold in track cycling at the women's sprint event. And now, for Milano Cortina, she's actually earned a spot on Canada's bobsleigh team.
Winter Games in Beijing 2022, how do they compare to, these games in Milano Cortina in terms of differences?
Yeah, it's a good question because the world, of course, is in a very different place. For one, the games are no longer limited or restricted by COVID regulations, so family, friends, and fans will be able to come and enjoy this competitive now and fun atmosphere, cheering on the athletes across each sport. It's something that a lot of people have spoken to in terms of the added anticipation for Milano Cortina. The other thing, too, about 2026 is that there is 47% female participation, which makes this Winter Olympics the most gender equitable in history. In fact, this is the first Olympic Winter Games at which Team Canada athletes competing in women's events outnumber those competing in men's events at 52%. So go girls. Also, I should note, there is the addition of ski mountaineering as well.
There are some stories always that are on the minds of people heading into any games. What are the big headlines you want to highlight already out of the Olympics in Milano Cortina?
Yeah, I would say a few of them actually come off the field of play, if you will. One being the Department of Homeland Security from the United States have deployed an ICE unit in Italy, which has sparked some confusion and concern. In fact, the mayor of Milan has spoke out against their involvement. So that will inevitably have an impact. We just don't know what that will look like quite yet. And then climate change, of course, is a real thing. And rising temperatures have made snowfall actually harder to count on for Winter Games. And environmental experts have sort of said that Milano Cortina Olympic organizers may be overselling just how sustainable these games are. So definitely 2 themes to keep an eye out for.
You're part of the coverage, obviously. What are you going to be doing?
Thank you for asking. I'm a digital studio host, so I get to have conversations with analysts and experts following various events, talking about athletes, unpacking what we see at Milano Cortina. A lot of these sports are ones that some fans are unfamiliar with. So luckily, we've got the expertise to break it all down and extend those conversations, both on the YouTube channel and on our website.
Enjoy it, Mackenzie. Thanks for the tee up. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
So Mackenzie Barwell, part of CBC's coverage team for the Olympic Winter Games, Milano Cortina 2026, continue here on CBC. We have our Olympic update coming up, in fact, in 4 minutes. So the Manitobans are going to watch for are Jocelyn Larocque from St. Anne, her 4th game. She's previously brought home 3 medals. She obviously plays hockey, women's hockey. You probably followed her. Her debut was Sochi 2014. Katie Tabin is in her first Olympic game. She's from Oakbank. She's also on the women's women's Olympic hockey team. And then we have Seth Jarvis from Winnipeg in men's hockey, a late addition to Team Canada, and Travis Sindham from Elkhorn making his Olympic debut also with Team Canada men's hockey.
The year of the horse gallops in, and CBC invites you to celebrate. Experience the 2026 Manitoba Chinese Business Gala, February 6th at Club Regent Event Center. An evening of networking, food, performances, and awards. Celebrate the Chinese Lunar New Year and recognize the remarkable contributions of Manitoba's Chinese business community. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
So back to the Olympic Games. Who are this year's mascots?
Now, Tina and Milo are named after their host cities. Tina from Cortina d'Ampezzo and Milo from Milano. Tina here is the mascot for the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympic Games. She was born in the mountains of Italy, grew up enjoying the outdoors with her little bro Milo, but has since moved to the city. Milo is the Paralympic mascot. Milo was born without a paw, and thanks to his creativity and strong will, he has adapted and now uses his tail to help him get around.
Super cute. Just a little tee up of who the Olympic mascots are. And Milo and Tina are stoats. And while we know they're cute, we actually don't know exactly what they are. CBC's Rebecca Stanberg found out all about them. And if you want to read more about her article, you can go online to cbc.ca/Manitoba and see some of the links to our national coverage. cbc.ca/Olympics, though, is going to help you out with everything that you might need to know for the games. We are coming up to our Olympic report update at 6:25 a.m. And then, of course, we have some regular programming coming up as well. So in business news this morning, Phil Demont's going to be back. Yesterday, Ottawa unveiling a new strategy regarding electric vehicles. We did get some early analysis of that. And there was talk about whether or not that's going to bring down prices, what that's going to look like, whether or not those who manufacture and develop cars in this country will be happy about it or not. They basically scrapped a mandate to be all electric by the future, and they have those future dating dates. And they went back to incentives for each and every vehicle that does go EV. So is that going to actually be more of an incentive or less? We're going to get some of the response from Phil. So that is coming up still ahead on Information Radio. In addition, the value of Bitcoin has all of a sudden fallen off the table. So we'll find out more about what's going on in the crypto world.
The world is counting down to the Milano Cortina 2026 opening ceremony. A bold celebration of Italian art and culture, united by the Olympic spirit. Featuring show-stopping performances by icons Mariah Carey and Andrea Bocelli, and a tribute to Giorgio Armani. Plus the Parade of Nations with Team Canada. It all begins Friday, February 6th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, live from Milan. Watch free on CBC and CBC Gem.
The Olympics feature the best curling talent on the planet, while in Winnipeg, slightly less talented curlers gather to throw rocks on the frozen Assiniboine River. Rock the River is back February 6th to 8th in support of the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Enter a team and join CBC to experience a Canada mixed curling Olympic matchup live streamed on the frozen river. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
Things are pretty good on your morning commute. News is coming up here at 6:30. Right now in Winnipeg, mostly cloudy. It's -12. Our high today is not really a high. The temperature will fall to -17 this afternoon. With wind chill, it will feel like -27. Well, next on 89.3 FM, it is time now for your very first Olympic update.
The late, great Luciano Pavarotti with Funiculi Funicola, a song celebrating the mountainside cable cars found throughout Italy, funiculars. Good morning, I'm Scott Reguer with your Olympic report. The funiculars in Cortina d'Ampezzo will be in heavy use today, not just by those watching the final training run for the women's downhill, but to take in this afternoon's opening ceremony. Cortina will join fellow mountain towns Livigno and Predazzo in hosting parts of it, with the main event taking place in Milan's iconic stadium, the San Siro. On hand will be Team Canada's chef de mission, Jennifer Heil, who we've reached on the line from Italy. Jennifer, what's the message you're sending to athletes as we begin these games?
Making sure everyone knows each other and knows that we have each other's back. So, whether it's a high five in the village or a smile, that can make the difference in a real pressure-filled environment. So really embrace this opportunity, feel the joy. There's so much pressure involved in this moment, but, if they trust their training and bring the joy, I know magic's going to happen.
Games about the organization or maybe the lack thereof when it comes to the local Olympic Committee, the hockey arena, and other venues. What's your sense of the state of readiness from that standpoint?
Yeah, well, when I competed 20 years ago, there were cows on the mogul course 2 months before, and it was a world-class competition. So, the timetables were always going to be Italian. The athletes are not distracted by that. By all reports, the quality of the ice, both at the hockey arena and, the long track and short track arenas are great. We're hearing nothing but positive news out of the villages where everybody's settling in. Let the other countries worry about and lose their energy over navigating the environment. Let's accept it and problem solve. We hope the athletes feel very few of those bumps, and by all accounts so far, we're on track.
But maybe no cows on the moguls course this time.
I haven't had any reports of cows on mogul courses.
Good to hear. Jennifer, thanks so much for doing this.
All right. Thanks. Great talking with you.
That's Canada's chef de mission, Jennifer Heil, who has fond memories of Italy, having won moguls gold in Torino 20 years ago this week. Meanwhile, Toronto's Jack Crawford has high hopes of winning gold himself. A bronze medal winner in the downhill at the last games in Beijing, Crawford finished with the top time in training in this morning's final run. The men's downhill race will go tomorrow, where the game's first medals will be awarded. Over to figure skating, where the team event is about halfway through its first day of competition. Canada's Piper Gillies and Paul Poirier are through to the next round in the ice dance category. With more on the competition, my Olympic Report co-host Sonali Karnik joins me now. Good morning. So the pairs short program is wrapping up, and that is a category where Canada has to make a change, I understand. Thanks, Sonali. That's CBC's Sonali Karnik. Now to curling.
There you go. Big win for the USA.
Canada's Brett Gallant and Jocelyn Peterman suffered their first loss of the mixed curling bonspiel this morning. As you heard, it came at the expense of the Americans, who prevailed 7-5. Rapper Snoop Dogg, who was in the crowd today in Cortina, looked very happy with that result. That is most definitely not Snoop Dogg. That is Andre Bocelli, who will have his own version of Funiculi Funicula. He will be performing it at today's opening ceremony, which will start on all CBC platforms at 1:30 Eastern Time. And that is your Winter Games update this hour. I'm Scott Riga.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg. There have been no updates from RCMP overnight on the manhunt for Joshua Papanicus and the search for 20-year-old Rayanne Thomas, who was abducted in Pimicikamat Cree Nation. Mountie said yesterday Thomas was in immediate danger, and police put out a dangerous person alert for Papanicus. The search is focused on the Northern First Nation, but Mounties say it's possible they may be elsewhere. A judge dismissed a complaint against Winnipeg police just over a month after a rare public hearing. The complaint was filed through an independent agency that reviews police misconduct. Most complaints like it are dismissed before getting a judicial hearing. Lawyer Jean-René Dominique Quilou says that discourages people from coming forward.
I think
when there's just less of positive outcomes for civilians, where we know, police are not immune to misconduct, it's still concerning, right?
The complaint was filed in 2022. The man who filed it alleged police made fun of him and his girlfriend during a domestic abuse call. The lawyer who represented the officers says the evidence vindicates the officers who committed no wrongdoing. A new wastewater treatment plant will add more capacity for population growth in southern Manitoba. 13 communities in 6 municipalities will be hooked up to the new plant, which will be built near Niverville. The plant is expected to cost $205 million. Communities rely on lagoons to handle wastewater. Niverville Mayor Myron Dick says the lagoons are reaching capacity, and the new treatment plant is desperately needed.
Let's just put it this way. Because the province was aware of this project coming on, they've given us a little grace.
The new facility will be able to handle double the current population of the communities. A contractor is still needed to build 100 kilometers of pipe to connect the communities to the plant. Half of Canadians either don't have a family doctor or struggle to see the one they have, according to a new report by Angus Reid. And as Helena Mahalik reports, Saskatchewan ranks as one of the last nationally, with 41% of people living there saying they have difficulty accessing primary care.
It's like a constant process of calling places to see if doctors are taking patients.
Laura Pfeiffer, a Regina mom, has spent the last 2 years searching for a family doctor with no end in sight.
With 2 kids that haven't had a wellness check in 2 years, and while I know that they're healthy, there's still things I want to be able to talk to a family doctor about.
The province's opposition says it's concerned. 22% of people don't have a family doctor. Jared Clark, a Saskatchewan NDP MLA, says it's even worse for people in small towns.
There is no doctor available close to home, and they can't be sure on whether their local hospital is going to be open or not.
Health Canada says they are working closely with provinces to address issues impacting access to care. The Saskatchewan government promises everyone will have access to a primary healthcare provider by 2028. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The city of Brandon is starting to work on a plan to boost tourism. Council recently approved $60,000 in this year's budget to develop a strategy. Jennifer Watson is with Brandon First, a nonprofit dedicated to marketing the city as a destination for big events like conferences and sports competitions. She says events are the bread and butter of tourism in the Wheat City, but there's always room to grow.
We've got some really exciting big events on the horizon and that we're in the bid phases for. And so if we can ramp up some of those additional tourism offerings to pair with those large events, I think it's a win for everyone.
Watson says she wants the city to be ready for big events, especially as Brandon prepares to celebrate its 150th anniversary in 2032. Work on the tourism strategy is currently in the pre-planning stages. And finally, students and parents and teachers from Barons River First Nation visited a northern school that has invited them in. The group got a tour on Thursday of Frontier Collegiate in Cranberry Portage. Class has been out in Barons River since the school burned down January 27th. The community's arena also burned down last year. Larry Whiteway is one of the parents who made the trip. He says losing both the arena and school have hit the region hard.
So it's almost like they're missing somebody or a home or a friend that was there close to them that they could go to. Now it's not there, and they're wondering what next.
Some students already attend Frontier. Barons River School went up to grade 9 with students leaving home to complete high school. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Josh. Josh Crabb from our news center this morning, live at CBC. 6:35, it's Friday morning. It is February 6th. And yesterday, Abby, what'd you do with the warm weather?
Honestly, I missed my chance of enjoying it because I got home and I
Too tired.
I snoozed for too long.
Do you know what? I had a big snooze yesterday too, but I did grab a little time in the afternoon where I went into the sunroom, which is not for a season, but it was so warm yesterday. I put a little heater in there and I just enjoyed that afternoon light. It was really nice.
Though I broke that one rule I'm not supposed to do. I said I'm going to stop over at a car wash on my way home. I did, and it felt like I did not go to the car wash.
Yeah, I was going to say, bad day to do
because
it.
I was stuck behind a transit bus, so it was just spraying from up to down.
Yeah. The sound in my neighborhood was the chipping of ice, though. I know I did a little bit of the clearing on the steps because it was soft enough to get it off. So I could hear a lot of neighbors up and down doing it. What do we got today coming?
Well, you would hear that this morning. Also, parts of the province in the north, we have yellow warnings in that part of the province towards Tuduli Lake, actually. We're talking about dangerous wind chills and the values of minus 45 this morning. It means frostbite in minutes. And if you look at the transition to the southern part of the province, we're still on the mild side, but we will see that sharp dip in temperature as we get into the day. Like if you look around Morden right now, it's saying temperatures around 9 degrees. But Winnipeg, we are around minus 11, minus 12, cloudy conditions. Expect temperatures to fall to minus 17 this afternoon. The wind chill around the values of minus 27 to minus 28. Well, it's a mild stat. The mercury will definitely just hover near minus 15 all morning before we see some clear conditions. Overnight, we'll see wind chills in the values of minus 28 in Winnipeg. Then tomorrow, we get a high of minus 5. For Saturday, though, some light snow will sweeping in. For the Pembina Valley region, we're seeing minus 8 in some spot, minus 9. Cloudy conditions also. Temperatures dropping to minus 14 by the afternoon. Brandon towards Nipawin, conditions are cloudy there. Minus 7, minus 8. We're seeing in that part of the province at this time. Temperatures fall to minus 13 later today with a steady wind chill near minus 24. In the Parkland region, Dauphin and surrounding regions, we are looking at temperatures hover between minus 11 and minus 13 depending on where you are. We're tracking minus 11 near Dauphin at this time. Light snowfall in there. It's going to be high will stay around, it's going to stay steady at minus 12 for most of the day, though you're going to feel that morning wind chill close to minus 30. For Gimli, we're looking at minus 15 at this time. You drop to minus 17 later. A risk of frostbite due to the wind chill coming your way. It's going to feel like minus 30 this morning. Now, tracking it into the northern part of the province, the Par, Flin surrounding communities towards Barons River, we're looking at minus 22s and minus 21. And even around Gillam, we're seeing minus 32 at this time. But for the Par, Flin you're hovering near minus 23. Highs to be around minus 17. Thompson, you are at minus 31 this morning. Clear skies, and you will struggle to get that sunny high of minus 22 today, though the wind chill close to minus 40, tracking a wind chill of minus 39 means a risk of frostbite in minutes also in that part of the province. And then for Tuduli Lake, where we have this yellow warning at minus 35, you only warm up to minus 25, though you won't feel that warm conditions much because of the wind chill. It feels like minus 45 this morning. For Churchill towards the York region, we're looking at ice crystals in that part of the province, minus 29 at this time. Your high only gets to minus 27, though the wind chill for Churchill around minus 43 this morning. Also frostbite in minutes, though we don't have the warnings triggered for Churchill and the Thompson region yet, but we still have warnings in the Tuduli Lake this morning. Once those wind chill values get to like minus 45, then we get to see a warning for Churchill and other region. But for now, the warning only affects folks around the Tuduli Lake region, so you need to take it easy out there. So it's more like a divide. The south still having a spillover of the warm condition yesterday, but we'll see temperatures drop really sharp down to minus 17s and minus 18s and even close to minus 20s for most of the regions down south. But Winnipeg right now, we're hovering around minus 12, minus 13. And just take it easy today.
The drive, the commute this morning, what are we thinking?
Nothing outside so far. We've not gotten any call. You see anything on the road, let us know. 788-3093.
All right, pretty straight ahead. Thanks, Abby. Let's get into what's going on in business news. Phil DeMont is filling in for Christely Ramlicam once again this Friday morning. Hi, Phil.
I was listening to those temperatures. That's really cold out there.
It's really warm for us. Well, not up north. It is really cold. Yeah, I know.
Fair enough. Man.
We're so climatized though that there, know, now when it's like minus 3 or whatever, like feels so warm because we really have. We got hammered in January. It was crazy here.
You?
Oh, yeah, it was so cold. Let's talk about EVs here, Phil. So we already talked about this yesterday. Ottawa was about to unveil their new strategy for electric vehicles. They did this. What's the response been now?
Yeah, I'm going to focus on analysts as opposed to the industry simply because business is going to like this strategy. Ottawa's dropping a regulation they didn't like around EV sales and bringing back consumer incentives for the electric vehicles that they did like. TD Bank, though, they say the policy more or less is Trudeau light, not as onerous as the former PM's mandate 60% of new car sales being electric by 2030. We talked about that yesterday. But there are new tailpipe emissions restrictions for new cars and truck models. The goal, though, seems to be kind of on the same trajectory, if not the same goal. And what I mean by that is Trudeau's goal was 60% by 2030. Carney's yardstick, EVs as a percentage of new car sales, 75% by 2035. So he's stretching it out longer, but he's getting a higher number. And you got to guess that he probably talked to the industry about this, and they were much more comfortable with this number than they were with the 60% number. To get there, government's bringing in new customer incentives to buy electric, but these incentives, according to TD, less lucrative because there's a cap, $50,000 and above you don't get the incentives. And so that's a bit of an issue. The pro-environmental Pembina Institute says the program is a move in the right direction. You'd expect that. They would like more aggressive plan to reduce tailpipe emissions because they've got to come up with the standards right now, and there's a sense that maybe the restrictions, the emission restrictions, might be higher than the last time around. Here's the problem, though. Last year, Canadians bought 30% fewer EVs than they did the year before, partly because Ottawa and some of the provinces got rid of the rebate programs that had existed. The hope is that this new policy under the new government, fairly comprehensive, although some of the details are vague, the hope is that this new policy will kind of reverse that sorry performance.
The value of Bitcoin, all of a sudden, frankly, has fallen off the table. What's going on with the crypto world?
Yeah, I hate talking about Bitcoin, but I kind of have to because the movement's so big now. It's either a periodic price correction or a sea change in how people view cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, probably the most recognizable virtual currency around. On Thursday, its price fell below $63 US for the first time, $1,000 US for the first time in 16 months. In fact, it's down 50% from where it was a year ago. Crypto boosters have often promoted the idea of Bitcoin and the other internet dollars as digital gold. And by that, I mean you buy the Bitcoin if you think the real economy's in trouble, uncertainty, and that trend for a while seemed to be real. In September 2024, Bitcoin went for about $54,000. 12 months later, it was $122,000. Now, some of that increase was what was known as the Trump bump, because the president was seen as a crypto booster. But since that time, Bitcoin's been riding the Wile E. Coyote roller coaster to the bottom, off 40% in the past year. Meanwhile, real gold, another hedge, up 60%. So they're moving in opposite directions. Boosters point out that Bitcoin's always been volatile, big drops in 2018 and 2022, and the currency regained its value. My issue with that is that previous slides occurred when people didn't really understand virtual money that well and were kind of worried about it. This fall, more investors better understand the market, so you're getting the sense that actually maybe it's rather than panicky people who didn't know, it's panicky people who actually know.
And let's go to the Super Bowl weekend stories. Not just for football, though. It's, of course, the Super Bowl of snacking. See, everyone thought I was going to say ads, but let's talk about how much pizza and wings Canadians are expected to put away this weekend.
Yeah, enough to make you want to have the antacids ready. Super Bowl Sunday, New England and Seattle. But it's also when many Canadians, because it's an event, a special event, decide to break every dietary restriction in the book. 8.5 million Canadians will tune into the game. They will snarf down 82 million wings. That's about 10 wings a person. More than 50% of the game watchers will dial up a food delivery service and probably order pizza. Major Canadian chains have seen pizza orders up almost 50% on Super Bowl Sunday compared to a regular Sunday, but they'll be paying more. Wing prices up 7% this year versus 2025. In fact, since December 2020, the cost of snacking in the States up 20%, up in Canada up 30%. One thing that won't be happening, the big flush. Now, this is supposedly when everybody goes to the washroom during the Super Bowl ad breaks. It turns out it's an urban legend.
Okay.
It stems from media coverage of a 1984 water main break-in of all places, Salt Lake City, Utah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised because I knew this as the legend, and you supposedly have the little meters for water. Yeah. They go way up. But apparently, it probably does go up some, but the idea that, you're going to break the system because everybody's going to the washroom at the same time.
That part's not true.
Yeah, no.
All right, Phil, we'll enjoy the Super Bowl and the snacks, and don't worry about flushing the toilet, and we'll see you next week, maybe.
Well, maybe I will.
Take care.
Thanks, Marcy.
Phil DeMont with Business News, filling in for Crystal Lee Ramlakan. Well, singer-songwriter J.D. Crosstown released his debut full-length album last year. It's called Takin' My Time. We pulled one of the tracks. This is Grey Goose on 89.3 FM.
Oh, mother of the morning light, like crimson coals burning bright, won't you please bring back a warmer day? For the chilly winds and falling snow are the oldest friends that I still know. See the breath I carry tonight where I lay. Oh, brother, can you hear me now? I wish I could tell you, but I don't know how. I have no place that I can call my home. Seems what was right has now turned to wrong, or maybe it was like that all along. The life I knew has now turned to stone. You see, Mama's been flying on a little gray goose at the end of each day. Well, if only she could see the truth. She's flying far away, oh, far, far away. Well, the moon begins to promenade when the glass becomes a ball and chain, dragging through every reason or rhyme. I still hear her speak throughout the night. She tells herself the same old lies to a little blue bottle that slowly runs dry. Well, oh sister, can you see it all? Things arise before they fall. Oh, how I try to keep you from this day. For I've always known the blood and pain, our sorrow runs through the roots and veins. Oh, how I tried to mend each broken heart. See, Mama's been flying on a little gray goose at the end of each day. Well, if only she could see the truth. She's flying far away, oh, far, far away. River is starting to freeze. The birds now look for a southern breeze in the skies are now turning gray. silence and
JD Crosstown. This is from his debut album called Taking My Time. The song's called Grey Goose. Some pretty nice descriptive language there, hey, in the lyrics. You can see that prairie sky with all the geese. It is 9 minutes to 7 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. You're with CBC. I'm RC Marcusa. Thanks for being here. Next on the show, for decades, buying a starter home in your 20s was seen as a step forward to building wealth. You get on the housing ladder at the right age. Maybe you'd live there. Maybe you'd start a family, sell it, move into a forever home. But because of rising home prices, that rung on the ladder has been removed for a lot of people. Mike Moffat's here to talk about what's going on in 2026, economist who studies the housing market. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
So what's the current situation of a starter home now compared to even 20 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I bought my first home, I was 27 years old in London, Ontario, and I bought a small but comfortable three-bedroom home. My parents in the late 1960s, they were in their early 20s and bought a small two-bedroom home. Nowadays, because of the price of housing, that's not happening in much of the country. That when young people are able to afford that home, particularly if they don't have family help, they're 33, 34 years old, and what they're buying is a small one-bedroom condo, which isn't necessarily a comfortable place to raise kids. So it's a much different environment than we had, and it doesn't really allow for the graduating into a forever home like we did back in the early 2000s and like my parents did in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, I mean, in Winnipeg, it's always astronomically different even. So when I was 31, bought my first home in this city was 2005. And similar to you, though, was $146,000. That house is now 2.5 times that. Same house. And we're considered to be the market where you can still afford a home. Why can't condos fill the void here in being that first rung on the ladder?
Well, they can be, but you're not building a kind of enough equity. That young people are doing that later, and we're not seeing the kind of appreciation in condos. So there was a time, I would say around 2010 in the GTA, where that actually worked. That a younger person could buy a condo, the price of that condo would go up 10, 12, 15% a year. Eventually, they, with that appreciation, they could sell the condo and use that for a down payment on something larger. But that was never a sustainable model. That home prices couldn't keep going up 10, 12, 15% a year. So now we find ourselves in the situation where condo prices are flat, in many cases falling. You don't really have that pathway to build equity.
So obviously the impact on young people's lives means they might be looking for other things to build equity, but what does it mean for them in terms of the housing market? Is it going to return to a place where they can look at housing for equity, or where do you think it's heading?
Well, I certainly hope it's not headed back to where we were in 2010, because that was not a sustainable model. That I think we need to be building more homes. We need to get the cost of home building down. And, home prices can go up over time. If they're going up 2, 3, 4% a year, kind of the same rate as wages and inflation, that allows for affordability. But, that experience that we had over the last 20 years, that experience that you were mentioning, of a home going up 2.5 times over 20 years is not sustainable. It seems to have ended, and let's hope it doesn't come back, because it's just not a workable model.
What's the impact on a young person's life of this situation and on their choices in their life?
Well, they're having to face a series of trade-offs that are far larger than what we had to face 20 or 25 years ago. That the biggest one being families and kids, that they are delaying having children. Many are choosing not to have children at all, even though that they would like to, simply because they can't find a place to live. And they're also not able to live close to job opportunities. So you have a whole generation of folks who have been priced out of the GTA, for example, and they're moving to smaller communities like a Tillsonburg or a Woodstock. They're having to face a choice where either they don't take that great job in Toronto, or if they do, they are commuting an hour and a half each way every day. not great for quality of life, and it's also not great for the environment to have all of these cars zooming down the highway because we haven't created the conditions to allow people to live close to where they work.
All right. Well, I guess as a last question here, Mike, I mean, you outlined all of this. What do you think politicians might be thinking about to solve this? You already mentioned some of the building that needs to happen.
Absolutely. I think the first thing they need to do is get out of the mindset of that all homes are the same, that we can't just create a bunch of one-bedroom condos. There is a use for that, but we need family-sized homes. We need to tackle the taxes on construction. Here in Southern Ontario, in most municipalities, development charges and similar taxes have gone up about 2,000% in the last 20 years. But the big thing we need to do is tackle land costs, that we have gotten very restrictive on not just how much land is used, but how that land is used. We need to be able to create regulatory conditions that allow us to build 3-bedroom, missing middle type housing in existing neighborhoods. That would go a long way to keep prices reasonable and create opportunities for young families.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
This is always a talker in our city. I'm wondering if you're a first-time home buyer, if you want to weigh in, 788-3205, or if you're trying to be one. What's it like out there in Manitoba? Mike Moffat, economist and director of Missing Middle Initiatives at the University of Ottawa. We reached him in Ottawa, and that, of course, is the name of one of the initiatives the city is looking at, right? Looking at building more missing middle, quote-unquote, housing. Mostly cloudy in the city right now. It's minus 12. It's going to clear this morning, but our temperature is going to fall to minus 17. It's going to feel like minus 27. So yesterday was that one-day warmth gift. That'll change. Tonight, clear, low minus 21 and high of minus 5 into tomorrow. Gets warmer by Sunday, though. The morning commute has been pretty good so far. Call us if you see any problems at 788-3093. Coming up in the next hour of Information Radio, as you've been hearing on the show, the Winter Games start today, opening ceremonies. You can watch them at 1 o'clock our time. We're going to have a CBC Kids reporter who tried to get some answers to some interesting Olympic questions, so stay tuned. Plus, is there a better way for cities to raise money? This is a question we're asking with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. They say it might be worth considering adding an extra income tax to help. And this is in the face of our conversations of property assessments coming out and people saying, why was my house assessment so much higher? There's always been a question of how are the ways that, cities get money into the coffers to offset infrastructure. Is it time to blow up the current system and have a more stable funding model? We'll talk to the CCPA and then we're going to ask the Premier about it later. So that's a two-part coverage day on that topic. Right now, we're coming up to national news, but first let's find out what's developing in Manitoba with Josh Crabb.
Good morning. There have been no updates from RCMP overnight on the manhunt for Joshua Papanicus and the search for 20-year-old Rayanne Thomas, who was abducted in Pimachikamat Cree Nation. Mountie said yesterday Thomas was in immediate danger. A judge dismissed a complaint against Winnipeg police just over a month after a rare public hearing. The complaint was filed through an independent agency that reviews police misconduct. Most complaints like it are dismissed before getting a judicial hearing. And Barons River First Nations students headed north to see where they might go to school for the rest of this year. They joined parents and teachers on a flight Thursday to visit Frontier Collegiate in Cranberry Portage because the school in Barons River burned down. Your next local CBC News is at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
And your next national and international news is up right now. It's 1 minute to 7 o'clock and World Report is next on CBC. Stay with us.
Today on The Current. Okay, here they are, the Canadians.
The Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina start today. What is it like for athletes to walk into that opening ceremony? Well, we'll hear from people who know Olympic legends Clara Hughes, Hayley Wickenheiser, and Becky Scott coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. The Olympic Winter Games Milano Cortina 2026 are getting underway, starting with the opening ceremony today. The spectacle is expected to be a major nod to Italian history, with a promise of a few surprises before the focus shifts to the athletes. CBC's Sarah Levitt has the latest from Italy.
The greatest show on earth is coming to Italy.
A lot of it has been kept secret, but the Milano Cortina Winter Olympics opening ceremony will take place under the theme of harmony, with performances from Italian opera great Andrea Bocelli and Mariah Carey, who will be singing in Italian. Harmony, a way to highlight Italy's amazing history, but also with a step in today's modern world. Marco Balic is the creative director and executive producer of the ceremony.
The idea of harmony needs to be translated also in today's world, not only in the dialogue between man and nature, but also in the necessity of dialogue between cultures.
The spread out nature of these games means athletes will take part from Milan, Livigno, Cortina, and some of the other sites. Leading Team Canada will be veteran Olympic skiers Michael Kingsbury and Marielle Thompson as the official flag bearers out of the snowy northern Italian town of Livigno.
I know that this team is going to move our country.
Jennifer Heil is Team Canada's chef de mission.
Canada's Olympic athletes are a rare kind of power. They unite us and they show the world what Canada looks like under pressure. Proud, respectful, relentless. That's worth celebrating.
The ceremony begins at 2 p.m. Eastern. Let the pageantry begin before the magic of sport takes over the world for just over 2 weeks. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Livigno, Italy.
Canada's Governor General and Foreign Minister will preside over a flag raising in Nuuk today as Canada officially opens a new consulate in Greenland. Joining them, a delegation of more than 60 Inuit. And as Olivia Stefanovich reports, they've traveled to Greenland to show solidarity in the face of recent territorial threats from U.S. President Donald Trump.
We want to come together in solidarity with Greenland and to show our support and to say, that land is not for sale.
The Labrador Sea may separate them, but Susie Ann Kudluk says the bond between Inuit in Canada and Greenland is stronger than ever.
Inuit are unified. We don't see borders. We see each other as one.
Kudluk is one of more than 60 Inuit delegates who flew from Montreal to witness the official opening of the Canadian consulate in Nuuk, Greenland's capital.
I think this is a positive thing that we're trying to do and to show the world that Inuit are united, Inuit are very strong, and we are a force to be reckoned with.
Adami de la Alacu is an executive vice president with the Makivik Corporation, the Inuit organization that arranged the charter flight for the delegation. A decision made after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to annex Greenland and Canada.
These threats are not going away, and we need to ensure that as Inuit, we stand firm and we stand united in our Arctic sovereignty and our right to self-determination.
Trump has backed down from deploying military force against Greenland, but Alacu and other Inuit delegates say they don't believe the trouble is over. And they want the U.S. to know Inuit everywhere are rising up against it. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Nuuk.
High-stakes negotiations between Iranian and U.S. officials over Tehran's nuclear program are underway in Oman. Donald Trump's threat of military action hangs over the talks, a move that's placed regional stability at the forefront of the agenda. CBC senior correspondent Margaret Evans has more from northern Iraq.
The two long-term foes have both gone into the talks professing their willingness to let diplomacy have a chance. But the entire region is watching with genuine fear that conflict could be just around the corner. Nayaz Barzani is the foreign affairs advisor to the Kurdish presidency in northern Iraq, which shares a 200-kilometer border with Iran, just a fraction of the overall Iran-Iraq border.
So if there is another war, and especially a regional war, it will have devastating impacts on the security economy of all these countries.
Iran and the U.S. don't even agree on what the scope of the talks should be. Tehran wanting to keep negotiations to its nuclear program. Washington insisting that everything be on the table, including Iran's ballistic missiles, its support for regional proxies, and its treatment of its own people. The start of talks took place indirectly through mediators. Analysts say Iran will be hoping to play for time, to drag out talks long enough to see U.S. military threats fade into the distance. Some say Washington will also be hoping to extend the clock, to give it time to consider the ramifications of any military action, especially if it's aimed at regime change. Former Iraqi Foreign Minister Hoshyar Zebari says U.S. President Donald Trump injects an added element of uncertainty.
Well, this administration is unpredictable, and it does what it thinks it's right. So many people see this meeting as make or break.
He's not convinced of that, but he does believe that today's meeting will indicate the direction of travel. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Erbil, Northern Iraq.
To Pakistan now, where at least 31 people are dead and many more injured after a suicide blast at a mosque on the outskirts of Islamabad. No one has claimed responsibility yet. Hira Mustafa is in the Pakistani capital. Hira, what more can you tell us about the situation on the ground?
So the blast has happened at this Shia mosque where I am currently reporting from. During Friday prayers, a time when the mosque is usually crowded with worshippers, people are worried about the deteriorating security situation in the capital itself. And this blast is happening at a time when Uzbekistan's president is visiting Pakistan. So security is on high alert. We could see police, rangers, and army troops deployed at the site of the explosion. They have currently cordoned off the area.
Hira, you are calling it a suicide attack. What more do we know about who might be behind the attack?
Well, with regards to this, investigations are still underway. We could see forensic teams collecting the samples from the site of the location. There is no official word from the authorities for now, like who was behind the explosion. And they say that in the next coming hours or day, they will let us know that who was behind this attack, and investigations are still underway.
Hira Mustafa joining us from Islamabad. Thank you, Hira.
Thank you.
And finally, 3 young people in Nova Scotia are facing sexual assault charges following alleged hockey hazing incidents. The RCMP say it has identified at least 3 victims, and investigators believe there could be more. Kayla Hounsell has the latest.
It is the latest example of alleged misconduct in Canada's national game. The RCMP says a youth reported being assaulted during a private team gathering in October. Investigators now believe offenses also occurred at other locations.
These are serious criminal offenses.
Staff Sergeant Mark Rose says the investigation is related to hazing incidents involving a hockey team in the Truro area, around 100 kilometers northeast of Halifax. He says officers have identified at least 3 victims, and there could be more.
We'll listen to them, we'll help them in the criminal justice process if required, or we'll just get them resources and help.
3 youths are facing criminal charges, including sexual assault with a weapon. Hockey Nova Scotia says it also immediately referred the matter to Hockey Canada's independent third party, which was established in 2022 to administer these kind of complaints.
Unfortunately, I'm not that surprised.
Author Laura Robinson has been researching sexual assault in hockey for decades. She says a significant cultural shift is still needed, but acknowledges work is being done to try to understand why the problem persists.
What has been created is an environment where boys and young men feel that they can come forward now with allegations of very serious assault and sexual assault from their own teams.
Hockey Nova Scotia says while the matter is under investigation, the youth hockey team has been suspended. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
And before we go, more on our lead story. Live coverage of the opening ceremony of the Olympic Winter Games Milano Cortina 2026 begins at 1:30 Eastern today. CBC's coverage will be broadcast on CBC TV, CBC News Network, and streamed on CBC Gem. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcuso. Welcome to Friday, and thanks for joining us here on Information Radio. This is your morning show, live from downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app and YouTube. Well, yesterday was that warm weather gift. Today it is going to be colder for sure, but still pretty nice through the weekend and not too bad out there so far. The weather in a moment for your Friday, February 6th. This hour on the program, coming up at 10 to 8, we're going to have a conversation about money. The Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives is proposing a different way for municipalities like the City of Winnipeg to raise more money with a new approach to taxation at the personal income tax level. We're going to hear more from them and why they feel it could be a solution that will work here. And they're looking at it in the face of what has just come out. Your property tax assessment, CBC reporting on a lot of Winnipeggers wondering why the assessments changed so much. Is there a more stable way to get money into the system? So that's coming up. Plus our Olympic updates at 25 past the hour. Right now, let's update news stories with Josh Crabb.
Good morning. Winnipeg's mayor welcomes a decision by the Supreme Court of Canada to dismiss an appeal by a developer in Fort Garry's Parker lands. The decision to not hear the case ends a drawn-out legal battle between developer Andrew Marquis and the city. Police are still looking for 39-year-old Joshua Papanicus. The RCMP alleges a 20-year-old Rayanne Thomas was violently abducted in Pimachikamak Cree Nation, and officers put out a dangerous person alert for Papanicus in what they say is a case of intimate partner violence. The search is focused on the Northern First Nation, but investigators say the suspect may be elsewhere. And Brandon is starting to work on a plan to boost tourism. City Council recently approved $60,000 to develop a strategy so they know where to spend money and develop what's already in Brandon. Your next local CBC News is at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Into the forecast now, as promised. Here's Abby.
Yeah, we're waking up to more like a divided picture again today in the province. We're talking about the dangerous deep freeze really gripping the northern parts of the province and impacting the folks around Tudula Lake, where we have actual temperatures around minus 35 at this time, and the wind chill values in that part of the province is now getting close to minus 46. So you need to take it easy. While for the southern regions, we're more facing that sharp afternoon cool down. You will notice temperatures really drop as we get into the afternoon period. For Winnipeg right now, we are around minus 13. It's mostly cloudy outside. Temperatures will hover near minus 15 all morning before we fall to minus 17 by the afternoon period. We'll see some clear skies and then the breezy conditions from the north. Just be aware of the wind chills this morning. It's going to feel like minus 27. There's a risk of frostbite still in play. Across Brandon, Dauphin, Gimel, we're looking at temperatures hovering between minus 11 and minus 15 this morning. Cloudy conditions also, with afternoon highs struggling to reach minus 9 in some areas, and some regions will see minus 11. Then further north, we're talking about those wind chills. It's going to be like temperatures really feeling like minus 45 this morning, so you need to take it easy. Winnipeg, once again, minus 13.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
We do have one traffic thing to mention here in our morning commute. Due to a fire, emergency crews have now closed eastbound curb lane of Nairn Avenue between Allen Street to Watt Street eastbound. So the eastbound curb lane of Nairn is closed between Allen and Watt. You have to keep left to pass. 788-3093 if you need us. Well, when it comes to the Olympic Games, you're going to hear the coverage through the eyes of a lot of adult reporters. But what would teenagers ask about the Games? Well, maybe things like this. What do you think smells worse? A Team Canada hockey bag or the lunch you left out to rot in your backpack that one time? That is what CBC Kids reporter Jonah Key Hoskins is wondering. And to find out, she actually posed that outside of River East Collegiate. And she also asked a few more thought-provoking questions about the Olympics to teens.
Hi, I'm Chanel Larson, and I'm 16 years old.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Chanel. What do you think smells worse, a Team Canada hockey bag or the lunch you left rot in your backpack that one time?
So I actually did leave lunch rotten in my bag over the break, but I still think the bag.
Really? Like, was that not traumatizing when you saw that lunch in your bag?
Okay, I have siblings who do stuff like hockey, and it stinks.
I am Isabella, and I am 16 years old. Honestly, I think they're pretty equal, but my food might take the cake.
Has that ever happened to you or a friend of yours?
I think so. I think I have left containers unwashed, and it smells really bad.
Name's Connor Gelawajchuk. I am 16 years old. As a hockey player myself, the hockey bag, without a doubt.
Why does it smell like that, do you think?
A combination of a lot of things. Blood, sweat, tears, just ain't a good combo.
My name is Maya and I'm 15.
At what age do you think most Olympic athletes retire? And what age do you think that they should retire?
I definitely think it's a lot younger than most people think. My guess would have to be maybe mid to late 20s.
My name is Jansen Guevara and I'm 16 years old. When they're getting near their 40s, I think that's when they should retire. When they're like around 40.
Is there a reason why you think so?
Just getting old and don't want to break your back and it'll just ruin your life, so.
They probably retire in their early to late 40s, 30s, just somewhere in that range. Probably should retire around 36. You're getting old. You might have a family, you know.
Do you think that some athletes could keep going?
Probably if they're on, steroids or something, but I think it'll be fine.
The Olympics are in Milan, Italy. What's your favorite Italian thing?
I'm gonna go super basic and I'm gonna say spaghetti. I'm a huge spaghetti guy. Spaghetti and meatballs every weekend, like amazing.
Is there a reason for that, or?
I don't know. My mama makes really good spaghetti. That's about that.
Is she Italian?
No, we are Ukrainian, through and through.
I'm Kyle Castro and I'm 15 years old. Pasta, 100%.
Is there a reason why?
Good flavor. I'm Brody Barber. I'm 15 as well. I'd have to go through spaghetti. Their spaghetti is also amazing.
The food. I love pasta. I stand pasta.
Have you been to Italy before?
No, but in March I will be going to Italy with my exchange partner.
Oh, that's really fun. Thank you so much for joining us today and answering our questions. Yes.
Fun questions. That is CBC's kids reporter, Jonaki Hoskins, asking teens outside of River East Collegiate in Winnipeg's NK neighborhood, my alma mater, intriguing questions about the games. I'm surprised no one said gelato, right? I thought that was going to come up, but you really can't go wrong with pasta. Well, one of the other things that people are questioning has to do with the mascots for these Olympic Games, which, as we know, begin today. So you're going to see in opening ceremonies this afternoon the mascots in Milano Cortina. You might have already seen images of them, or you've seen them skipping along the streets of Italy right now to get ready. They are characters. They are Milo and Tina. So Milano Cortina, you can figure out the names. But what actually are these? When you look at them, they appear to be kind of kangaroo-ish, kind of big rabbit-ish. Actually, they're stoats. But what's a stoat? CBC's Rebecca Zandbergen found out all about them from Dominique Fotoa, research scientist and director of the Arctic Centre at the Canadian Nature Museum.
So a stoat is basically how they call them in Europe. Here in Canada and basically North America, we also call them short-tailed weasel or ermine. They're quite widespread in the Northern Hemisphere. So they're in Canada, in the United States. They're also in basically all of Europe, Russia. They also have been introduced to a few places like New Zealand. So basically they can hunt, for example, up to 50 mice per day to feed their family. And because they're such efficient hunters, that's why they've been introduced in a few places in the world to try to control mice. Just like in New Zealand, they had problems with mice. They tried to find a solution to control them. Cats were that much efficient, but they decided to introduce weasels, so these famous ermines or stoats.
And what make them such good hunters?
They just can access wherever the voles or the mice are. So voles are another kind of little mouse. They can go, because of their very long, slender body, they can go into the burrows themselves and they can pick the mice out of their burrows. So that's why they're so efficient.
Killer instincts aside of these weasels, have you seen the Olympic mascots yet? I mean, have you seen the depictions and the little character drawings?
Yeah. They're incredibly happy.
They are. They are.
And weasels are probably much more serious. And again, they're hunters. They're very fierce predators. This is not what we actually see really in the images.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was the purpose or the objective to scare people with those animals.
Why do you think they chose them? Because they are pretty cute, to be fair.
They are cute, and in all honesty, they're playful, they're curious, they're super fascinating to watch also whenever you see them in the wild. They're not dangerous to us, so yeah. I do most of my research in the Arctic, in Nunavut, and we meet them every 3 to 4 years during the lemming outbreaks. The lemmings are these little mice that lives on the tundra, and whenever there's lots of lemmings, the ermines are going to be around trying to hunt them, and they're so curious that they're just going to come by you. Sometimes we had them just stand on our feet, like their front paws looking at us, just very, very curious, and they're not scary. They're fearless predators. They didn't want to predate us, luckily enough. But they're such fearless animals that even there's lots of interesting Inuit stories about ermines there.
Okay, do yourself a favor and Google Stout and just Google image and check out all the photos. They're adorable. CBC's Rebecca Zandbergen finding out about the Olympic mascots, who are stoats, with Dominic Foto, their research scientist and director of the Arctic Centre at the Canadian Nature Museum. Milo and Tina.
The year of the horse gallops in, and CBC invites you to celebrate. Experience the 2026 Manitoba Chinese Business Gala, February 6th at Club Regent Event Center. An evening of networking, food, performances, and awards. Celebrate the Chinese Lunar New Year and recognize the remarkable contributions of Manitoba's Chinese business community. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
So that's tonight. And CBC, as you heard, a proud sponsor. Now, we asked you for your horse stories, horse encounters, horse stories, for a chance to win 2 pairs of tickets. We've chosen our 2 winners. We're going to play those winning calls at 7:40, but we got a lot of entries, and we just want to take some time to play some of your entries overall. So this is one of the calls.
Good morning, CBC. You were looking for horse stories? I grew up on a farm with my little brother and sister, both younger than me. And when we were very young, we had about a dozen horses on the farm. And one of them was a particular character who liked to cause problems and have fun more than all the others. So his favorite trick was to jump over the fence down by the end of the yard, carefully come up behind the house and start peering in all the windows of the house. Now, this would make my grandmother, Baba, absolutely insane. And she would yell at my grandfather to go get that horse back and put away, and my grandfather would try really hard not to laugh. We, of course, as little kids, were just absolutely beside ourselves with this crazy horse peering in the window and looking in every other window. And my grandmother would always proceed to go grab a broom, run outside, and what we would watch as little kids, which was way better than any TV show at the time, was a horse going by the window and peering in one side, and a few seconds later my grandmother running behind it with a broom, and the horse coming back and peering in another window, until finally the horse had decided that she was getting too close, so it would trot back up the hill, jump over the fence, and basically prance around at the top of the hill behind the fence, as if to say, yeah, well, I'm back in my pen, there's nothing you can do about it now. And my grandmother would come back in, and my poor grandfather would try so hard not to crack a smile or laugh, because if he did, he would probably be the next recipient of the broom. But anyway, I just wanted to point out that horses are incredibly intelligent. All of them are different and have different personalities. And some of the ones that are the craziest, most fun to be around are just an absolute joy to live with. Have a great morning. Bye-bye.
What a fantastic story. I've got that image of the horse peering in the windows and the Baba getting all mad. Oh, that's so funny. Thank you so much for sharing. That's a fantastic story. Also, just because I'm Ukrainian, why are Babas always grabbing brooms? I know a lot of stories where the Baba grabs a broom to tell you what. Great story. We got a lot of those horse stories in the listener line. We're going to try to play some more calls. We certainly, though, will play the winning calls at 7:40. We did choose randomly from everybody who called in with a horse story. And we'll have 4 tickets, 2 pairs of tickets, and our winning callers will receive them. We'll get them to you today, because it means tonight you've won tickets to go to the 2026 Manitoba Chinese Business Gala at Club Regent Events Center. So you'll enjoy it, but you still have to stay tuned. We'll announce those winners at 7:40. We're coming up to 7:25. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Eastbound Nairn, still we could have emergency crews on site. They've closed the curb lane Nairn between Allen and Watt. Keep left to pass, and update us if you can. 788-3093. The news will follow your Olympic update on CBC. That's coming up next.
What's in the netting? Oh my goodness me!
The sound of Lindsey Vonn crashing last week at a downhill race in Cortina. The American legend was back out on that same course this morning. Good morning. I'm Scott Regehr with your Olympic report. Vonn's involvement in this morning's first Olympic training run is a testament to her courage. In that crash you just heard, she tore a knee ligament, meaning she needed a heavy brace around it today just to get down the course. Vonn did so without any issues and finished with a time placing her in the middle of the pack, a group she'll try and distance herself from Sunday when she races for another Olympic downhill gold. Her first came at the Vancouver Games 16 years ago. Meanwhile, the men's downhill goes tomorrow with Canadians Cam Alexander and James Crawford among the contenders. Crawford should be especially confident going in after finishing with the top time in the final training run this morning. The team event in figure skating is happening right now in Milano.
You better work.
Piper Gillis and Paul Poirier seen as Canada's best hope.
Each of the 10 countries competing can only send one entry per category, and Canada has had to change things up a bit over the last few days. With more on the competition, my Olympic Report co-host Sonali Karnik joins me. Morning, Sonali. So how is Canada faring?
Pairs category. Stellato Dudek suffered an injury just days before the Olympics, and the pair had to pull out of the team event. Pereira and Michaud also came in fourth and helped Canada earn another spot in the next round. We still don't know whether Stellato Dudek and Deschamps will be able to compete in the
short
pairs
program
event.
is on right now. How does it look so far?
Madeline Skis has just finished her performance, Scott, and is awaiting her score. Korea's Jia Shin is in first place right now, but the next flight of skaters, this really could change everything. All eyes will be on Kaori Sakamoto of Japan, the heavy favorite to win the individual competition, and certainly to help Team Japan get on the podium.
All right, we'll see what happens. Thanks, Sonali. That is CBC's Sonali Karnik. After its first loss of the Bonspiel this morning, Brett Gallant and Jocelyn Peterman fell 7-5 to the Americans. Their record is now 3-1, with their next game going tomorrow against Great Britain. Of course, today's big event at Milano Cortina 2026 is the opening ceremony. It will primarily take place at Milan's famous soccer stadium, the San Siro. Our man on the ground there will be Omar Dabagi Pacheco, who joins me now. Give us a sense, Omar, of what this ceremony is going to look like.
This is going to be the most geographically spread out event in Olympic history, right? It's the first time the Olympics has been held in two cities. So we've got Milano, and then we've got Cortina d'Ampezzo. That means you're going to see two cauldrons, not to mention athletes' parade celebrations are going to be happening in between those two main cities. And so 1,200 volunteer performers, 27 countries, 1,400 costumes. I mean, it's huge, right? And the big reveal, of course, is going to be the cauldrons. It's going to be extravagant. You know, the teams have been preparing for this for years. And for Canada, you know, the flag bearers, that's what all eyes are going to be on, of course, and that big sea of red in the athletes' parade.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that, Omar, the Canadian involvement in the ceremony today.
Well, okay, so we got the two flag bearers. We got Mikhail Kingsbury, three-time Olympic medalist in mogul. We've got Marielle Thompson, a two-time Olympic medalist in speed cross. We've got 206 athletes still, right? It's the first time in the Winter Olympics Games that Canada has more women than men entered in competition, but also watch for the awe on the faces of more than half of those Canadian athletes for whom this will be a first Olympic experience. For them, just getting here, being in the middle of that athletes parade is the dream. And so the returning athletes, some of whom I've spoken to, this will be perhaps their last Olympic Games. And for them, that walk with the athletes parade is the memory that they are hoping to leave here with.
Omar, thanks so much for this, and enjoy Andrea Bocelli.
Thank you.
That's CBC reporter Omar Dabagi Pacheco in Milan. And that is your Olympic report this hour. I'm Scott Regehr.
This is CBC News. At 7:30, it's minus 13 in downtown Winnipeg, cloudy, and minus 12 in Brandon, minus 31 in Thompson. Good morning, I'm Josh Crabb. Winnipeg's mayor welcomes a decision by the Supreme Court of Canada to dismiss an appeal by a developer in Fort Garry's Parkerlands. The decision to not hear the case ends a drawn-out legal battle between developer Andrew Marquis and the city. He claims city officials deliberately slowed the progress of a 1,900-unit project. Mayor Scott Gillingham says it's time to move forward.
I'm hoping now that everybody can put this matter behind us and we can get on to developing the Parkerlands. I'm glad to see the outcome, but now the focus is on what's ahead, and what is ahead is developing those lands.
The legal dust-up began in 2018. Marquis was frustrated with the pace of development and argued in a lawsuit the city and officials acted improperly and refused to allow development to proceed. In a statement issued late last night, Marquis says now that the legal proceedings have concluded, he remains focused on building housing. The RCMP continues to conduct a manhunt for Joshua Papanicus and search for 20-year-old Rayanne Thomas, who officers say was abducted in Pimachikamak, Cree Nation. Mounties said yesterday Thomas was in immediate danger. Police put out a dangerous person alert yesterday for the 39-year-old Papanicus. Officers allege he went to a home, struck a man with a hammer, and then abducted Thomas. Papanicus and Thomas are known to each other, and investigators consider this a case of intimate partner violence. Multiple police units were searching the Northern First Nation, going door to door to find both Thomas and Papanicus. They're focusing on Pimachikamak, but the RCMP says it's possible they're elsewhere. A judge dismissed a complaint against Winnipeg police just over a month after a rare public hearing. The complaint was filed through an independent agency that reviews police misconduct. Most complaints like it are dismissed before getting a judicial hearing. Lawyer Jean-René Dominique Quilou says people who try to pursue a complaint often have a hard time understanding legal language and thresholds to be successful.
I don't think the general public will know what the threshold is on the review. What it means to be transparent in terms of a reason, what it means to be understandable, what it means to be justified. So I think those kind of threshold it's a bit difficult.
The complaint was filed in 2022. The man who filed it alleged police made fun of him and his girlfriend during a domestic abuse call. The lawyer who represented the officers says the evidence vindicates the officers who committed no wrongdoing. Barons River First Nation students headed north to see where they might go to school for the rest of this year. They joined parents and teachers on a flight Thursday to visit Frontier Collegiate in Cranberry Portage. The school has offered to bring the kids in this semester. The students have been out of class since the school in Barons River was destroyed by fire January 27th. The school went up to grade 9. Student Spencer Fisher says he'll miss the memories he made there.
The sports, with friends and everything, and chilling with them, talking to them. It's all memories, since kindergarten and grade 1. I didn't get to experience, none of us did get to experience graduating in that school, and I wish I did, but it's gone now.
Portable classrooms are on the way to Barons River, but it may take years for a permanent school to be built. A massive infrastructure project is slated to change the lives of people living in 13 communities in southeast Manitoba. A contract for a new $205 million wastewater treatment plant near Niverville was signed this week. The communities currently rely on lagoons to handle wastewater, which are reaching capacity. The new treatment plant will be able to handle double the population. Jim Funk is Reeve of the Arm of Hanover, whose 5 communities will be a part of the project. He compared the price to the Red River floodway, saying the sticker shock will subside.
It was a huge amount of money, and yet how many times have they not been saved by having that floodway?
A builder is still needed for the 100 kilometers of pipes connecting the large swath of southeast Manitoba. That hire is expected in April. And Brandon is starting to work on a plan to boost tourism. City Council recently approved $60,000 to develop a strategy. Councillor Glenn Parker supported it. He says Brandon needs to know where to spend its money and also develop what's already there. He points out the park surrounding the city's decommissioned water tower.
I think there's some great photo opportunities for families that are visiting, and it'd be one more attraction for people to maybe visit when they're in town for something else.
Meanwhile, some event organizers say what Brandon really needs is more hotels hotels. Kristen Phillips is general manager of Ag Days, the annual farm show at the Keystone Center.
We bring in 580 exhibitors to the show, but we bring in 35,000 patrons. So there's only 1,381 beds in the city of Brandon. We need more hotels, more accommodations.
Phillips says hotels from Moosomin to Portage La Prairie are full during Ag Days. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is at 8:30.
All right, thanks a lot, Josh.
You're welcome.
I'm really looking forward to going to Brandon. Speaking of that Brandon tourism story, we're going to be broadcasting live there for 2 shows, in fact, during the Brandon Winter Fair. So if you're looking at your calendar, as we've been mentioning, it is coming up, I guess, end of March. It's during spring break, so that'll be good. I don't think, Abby, and this might come as a surprise to folks, only because I've been living and doing my work in Manitoba for so long, I don't think I've ever been to the Brandon Winter Fair.
That's also something I've been looking forward to.
Yeah.
You know, the Winter Fair is always something really. I've heard so much about it. I've seen a lot of stories about it and photos about it. And
Me
it's
too.
actually on my bucket list for this season.
Well, come with us. Come with us. Maybe we can convince them to put somebody else back here, because we usually need your skills here when we're on the road. But
No, that's work. I want to come for fun.
okay, fair enough. Yes. Well, speaking of work, you owe us the regional forecast now. What's up?
Yeah, we have a cold northern push across the province this morning. We're talking about that push bringing dangerous conditions to some regions, and we see temperatures in the southern part of the province already dropping at this point. We started around -10, and we're already seeing some areas down south getting to -16 around Gimli at this time. We do have extreme cold warning in effect for regions around Tudula Lake this morning. We're talking about dangerous wind chills in the valleys of -45, and these extreme conditions, it just means frostbite in minutes, so you need to take it easy. This cold push also stretching into southern Manitoba, bringing that freezing start to most of the regions, and we are going to notice it across the entire province this morning, whether you're in the northern part of the province or down south. A risk of frostbite is something serious. You're still going to feel it. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at temperatures around -13, cloudy outside. It's going to hover near -13 all morning before we fall to -17 by the afternoon period. And those north winds will make the wind chill this morning close to -28. So be prepared for that if you're going to be making transition from one bus to another. Similar condition we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, -9 at this time, mostly cloudy. Temperatures also fall into -14 by the afternoon period. Brandon sitting at -9, also cloudy conditions there. It's going to drop to -13 today. Breezy conditions you'll feel there. In the Parkland region near Dauphin, we're looking at -12. Cloudy, a slim chance of flurries spotted there earlier. You might notice it on and on. It's on and off. It's going to stay steady around -12 for most of the day. Then for the Gimli region, we are tracking -17 and cloudy start to the day. Temperature is going to stay around that -17, -16 all afternoon, though the wind chill feels close to -30 for that region. In the PA, we're looking at clear start sitting between -22 and -24. You warm to -17. Thompson is frigid at -31. The wind chill feels like -39 this morning. And then around Tudula Lake, where we have that warning, -35. We are getting some sunny conditions there, though it's not going to warm things up because of this extreme wind chills you're getting. It's going to feel close to -46. Frostbite can happen in minutes on exposed skin, so take it easy. And then finally in Churchill, we're tracking -29. We've been tracking ice crystals there all through yesterday and even into this morning, and that's still the conditions. Your high gets to -27, though expect some gusty winds, and going to keep the wind chill near -43 all day. So overall, the province will get cold. The southern part of the province already not really saying goodbye to those mild conditions. We might still get to see
for a day.
It's come or go again. But right now, Winnipeg, we're around -13.
Yeah, we're in back and forth season. Feels like spring. Let's talk about what's going on your commute. We need an update on this. If you're in the area, please give May a call. She's picking up the traffic line here. But eastbound Nairn Avenue, a fire emergency crews on site closing eastbound curb lane of Nairn between Allen and Watt. So apparently you're keeping left to pass. If you do have any updates, 78830 0093. It's 20 to 8. It is Friday morning. It's February the 6th. Hope you're having a great one out there. We here have sure been having a lot of fun listening to your calls to try to win 2 pairs of tickets to the 2026 Manitoba Chinese Business Gala, which is tonight at Club Region Events Center. Networking, food, all kinds of performances. They hand out community awards. Lovely evening. CBC Manitoba, a proud sponsor. Now, it is the year of the horse when you think about this year and Lunar New Year. And so we thought it would be fun to get you to enter by telling us your stories about horses. We got a lot of calls. We made random draws. And here are the 2 winning calls.
My name is Holly Rafferty from Niverville. My horse story is I grew up on a farm near Kindersley, Saskatchewan, and we were not a horse family. We had very much a mixed farm, but some of us were 4-H kids. So I joined the horse club because we had a little collection of odds and ends of horses. My horse for 4-H was named Silver. He was a bit on the older side. People just weren't using him, so sold him to my parents. And he was a great big Appaloosa. And due to the Disney song about Appaloosa, I just thought he was the most beautiful. And one of the adventures that we did was he was very stubborn when it came to loading. And we used to take him 50 miles out to our farm for the summer. So my job, and if he wouldn't load, I would get on, pack up a bag, and ride him back to Kindersley, where our small farm was located nearby. And so I rode all day. It was 50 miles, up roads, country roads here and there. Hardly saw a soul all day, but definitely once saw a skunk, and I made a 1 to 2 mile detour to avoid a skunk when I saw him ahead of us. And things like that, just adventures that I never ever forgot. And that was Silver, and as I said, my name's Holly Rafferty, my special horse. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, good morning. It's Annie Merlin. Horses, oh my goodness, all my life they are magical, beautiful beings. And this year, the year of the fire horse is going to be just as dynamic as these gorgeous animals. I have many, many horse stories, but the one that stands out, at least this morning, is, oh boy, out in a field I was with a young man who I adored, and we were out walking, and we went to the edge of a pasture, and way out in the pasture was a group of horses, and they would not come over. They weren't remotely interested. They were quite a distance, and I said, well, let me try this. And I took out my Irish penny whistle, and I started to play a tune. And the horses picked up their heads. They pointed their ears towards us. And I thought, okay. And I kept playing, and it was a lively Irish tune. Kind of made it up as I went along. And along they came. They just came rushing over. And I thought they would come to me, but they didn't. They came to this young man. And he was just standing very quietly and gently and rubbing noses. And they were just so beautiful. They loved the music, but they were drawn to him. And so was I. And that young man became my husband for 25 years. Anyway, I just thought I'd share this story. Horses are truly, truly intuitive, and they go where they're needed. They have a lot of intuitive ability, and they are herd animals, so they like to be in a group. Okay, everyone, happy Year of the Fire Horse. All best wishes. Bye for now.
What lovely stories. We've had such great stories on the listener line. Some of them have made us laugh. That one, of course, just was so much beauty in it and just love for the Valentine's Day set. And I love the story just of that relationship Holly had with Appaloosa. Looking up that 1966 featurette from Disney, which also had the tune attached, Run, Appaloosa, Run. So those are your winners, the winning calls. We chose randomly from all the calls that we got. Those listeners will be going to the 2026 Manitoba Chinese Business Gala tonight at Club Regent Events Centre. CBC, a proud sponsor. Enjoy the evening, everyone.
Have you visited CBC's Being Black in Canada website? It's an online platform to explore the stories and experiences of Black Canadians across the country. A space for news, documentaries, arts and culture, Black achievement in sports, and so much more. Celebrating a uniquely Canadian perspective on Black issues with the cultural moments that matter to Black Canadians. Visit cbc.ca/Being Black in Canada.
Still ahead on the program after 8 o'clock, Premier Wab Kinew is going to join us for our monthly interview. We're going to see if he'll tell us anything more about who is interested in Churchill development. He was dropping last week at the Prime Minister and Premier's meetings that there is a company interested, and also whether or not the province can pony up more or change the structure of how cities are funded in Manitoba, who are struggling with stable funding and have been for a long time to get ahead of issues with infrastructure and such. So is it something that the Premier would be open to, looking at different funding structures? We're going to explore one of those still ahead in this half hour in advance of Wab Kinew in studio after 8. Right now it's 7:46 a.m. Friday morning, minus 13 in Winnipeg. Our temperature is going to fall actually to about minus 17 with wind chill, feel like minus 27. And the winds are going to kind of be felt today for sure. Winds north 30 to 50. Still have that whipping on your face. Yesterday, a lot of people were going without hoods, and today everybody's got scarves over and hoods. So you can always tell when you're looking at how people are dressed on Portage Avenue out our studio window here. Well, we've got a bit of music, and this is new music from a proud Newfoundlander, Canadian singer-songwriter Alan Doyle. This is Take It Easy With Me.
Living is hard if you take it to heart, my lady, you can take it from me. Do you want to come lie where the sun shines high? Do you want to take it easy with me? My home sweet home is where the cold wind blows, but I'm hoping I can hold you in the heat. Will you take my hand where the water meets the sand? Do you want to take it easy with me? I know you've done your time in the 9 to 5, and I've been busy beating up a beat. Do you want to come hide behind a margarita lime? Do you want to take it easy with me? Do you want to come down where the beach is brown and the living and the loving is free? If you want to steal away, we can chill in the shade in a secret hacienda by the sea. Living is hard if you take it to heart, my lady, you can take it from me. Do you want to come lie where the sun shines high? Do you want to take it easy with me? There's an old hotel, oh I know it so well. There's a bar stool with my name on the seat. Do you want to come slide up to the stool next to mine? Do you want to take it easy with me? And when the daylights died, there's a band I like, cause they're always playing everything in 3. Do you want to slow dance where we don't need pants? Do you want to take it easy with me? Do you want to come down when there's no one around and the seagulls are sound asleep? Do you want to spend the night with the windows open wide and we can be together in the breeze? Yeah, living is hard if you take it to heart, my lady, you can take it from me. Do you want to come lie where the sun shines high? Do you want to take it easy with me? And we can dream away till the break of day, and we won't worry about the weather in the north. And when the sun's creeping in and you're done sleeping in, I'll be waiting with your coffee on the wharf. Living is hard if you take it to heart, my lady, you can take it from me. So do you wanna come there where the sun shines high? Do you wanna take it easy with me? Yeah, living is hard if you take it to heart, my lady, you can take it from me. Do you wanna come there where the sun shines high? Do you wanna take it easy with me? Yeah, do you wanna take it easy with me?
Well, maybe you'll be taking it easy with Alan Doyle on March 18th when he plays the Centennial Concert Hall here in Winnipeg. This is new music from the former frontman of Great Big Sea. It is 10 to 8. The Premier is going to be here live on CBC for our monthly interview after 8. But let's talk about something we're going to question him about. Many Canadian municipalities run on tight budgets, and Winnipeg's no exception. As of December, the city projected a $17.4 million deficit for the end of 2025. But the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives says there's a way for cities to beef up their operating budgets by levying local income taxes on high-income earners. Molly McCracken's here to outline this, a Manitoba director for the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. Good morning.
Good morning.
So this is an interesting conversation because a lot of people just had their property assessments, of course, and so we talk about that as a way for cities to have, revenue raised. It's not stable, and a lot of people say it's not fair to folks. How would a personal income tax help municipalities like Winnipeg with their funding problems?
Well, property taxes are the bulk of the revenue for the city of Winnipeg right now. So if governments were to, because you would need the permission of the federal or provincial government to do this in partnership with cities, introduce a new income tax bracket at the top end. So the proposal in this report is to give municipalities access to personal income taxes for those earning $246,000 or more per year at a 1% rate. So that could lever, for example, $16 million more for the city of Winnipeg, which is about the amount of the deficit for this year for the city.
Would higher income earners, do you think, be inclined to leave municipalities that would tax their income?
No, there's research on this. An increase such as a 1% or not a large amount is not a driver of people leaving where they live. There's many reasons why people stay or leave somewhere, family, work, and also we do have a fairly low cost of living here in Manitoba comparative to other places. So, this would not force people to leave Winnipeg necessarily. There's many reasons why they would stay or leave.
Is anywhere else in Canada, using this model successfully? I mean, obviously, we're probably going to Quebec for the closest, right?
Yes, there's no municipality currently in Manitoba, in Canada using this. Quebec has a portion of the PST. 1% of the PST goes to municipalities, and also Saskatchewan provides a portion of the PST. And that's important because, the retail sales tax or income tax is a growth-based tax so that when the economy grows, it increases every year. Property taxes are a stable source of revenue, but they don't necessarily grow every year. That's why, we go through this ritual where the city every year has to come out and say, we are going to increase property taxes by, whatever percent in order to meet the budgetary needs of the city to make the city run, which creates this situation where it's in the spotlight every time. And it's also the political whims of the provincial government here. For example, income to the municipalities was frozen during most of the time period of the previous provincial government. This provincial government is increasing it by 2% per year, but still municipalities need more revenue to respond to emerging needs, homelessness, and other things we're seeing in our city.
If Saskatchewan is one of the provinces, I'm just looking next door here, that has 1% of the PST come back to the cities, is that something that you would like to see here as well? Like, is that just as stable as asking for what you were mentioning with looking at taxing higher income earners?
Yes, that's another model. That's a growth-based model. That was a big part of the discussion with the New Deal for cities, and municipalities have been pushing for some sort of growth-based tax revenue for years and years and years. The percentage of personal income tax on high-income earners is one example, or a portion of the PST is another.
Do you know that if a portion of the PST here would equal in Winnipeg $16 million? Because that's the number we have for the other model, or
much more. It would be about $300 million.
Yeah. In terms of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities, they say that municipalities already get less than 10% of every tax dollars, even though they own 60% of infrastructure when they're outlining their arguments. So they say, why should we start taking people's income taxes? Instead, we should demand a fair share of the taxes that are already collected. This is the model we're discussing right now. What do you think of their perspective?
Well, they are trying to move forward what's needed for cities with crumbling infrastructure and complex needs. The tax conversation is always a hard one. And what a modest proposal this report by CCPA suggests is that high-income earners have done quite well. Stocks are rising. They can afford to pay a little bit more because they have that disposable income, and we need to look at a high-income earner tax increase that can go to cities and other needs in our community.
How much work would it be for a city like Winnipeg to implement a model like this? Obviously, they need the province to buy in, but how much work would it actually be?
Yes, the province or the federal government could collect the tax. If it was the federal government, they could do it through the CRA, and municipalities could opt in. That's what a modest proposal report suggests. Or here in Manitoba, we could do it without the federal government. The province of Manitoba would grant additional taxation powers to the City of Winnipeg through the City of Winnipeg Charter Act, which is the provincial legislation that defines the city's legal authorities.
Well, as you said, it's something that's been on the table being asked for years in different ways, but we'll put this and some of the numbers from your latest report to the Premier after 8, Molly. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
That is Molly McCracken. Thanks for being here, the Manitoba Director for the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. So coming up after 8, that idea and more questions for Premier Wab Kinew, who will join us in studio for our monthly interview. We will also be asking the Premier more about what happened recently in Steinbach and why the province has decided not to provide disaster assistance to Steinbach residents who were hit with 2 months' worth of rainfall in just one night last fall. And we also are going to ask about Churchill. He has said a major energy company interested in investing in Churchill's mega project. We will see if we can get any more detail from the Premier on who that is or the timeline for understanding information about that. That's coming up live after 8. Right now, Josh Crabb is in with other developing stories in our province. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Marcy. Police are still looking for 39-year-old Joshua Papanicus. The RCMP alleges a 20-year-old, Rayanne Thomas, was violently abducted in Pimachikamet, Cree Nation, and officers put out a dangerous person alert for Papanicus in what they say is a case of intimate partner violence. The search is focused on the Northern First Nation, but investigators say the suspect may be elsewhere. Winnipeg's mayor welcomes a decision by the Supreme Court of Canada to dismiss an appeal by a developer in Fort Garry's Parkerlands. The decision to not hear the case ends a drawn-out legal battle between developer Andrew Marquis and the city. And Barons River First Nation students headed north to see where they might go to school for the rest of this year. They joined parents and teachers on a flight Thursday to visit Frontier Collegiate in Cranberry Portage. The school has offered to bring the kids in this semester because the school in Barons River burned down. Your next local CBC News is at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Well, you can look outside and see that the sky is mostly clear in the downtown, cloudy in other spots. Our temperature will fall to -17 this afternoon, going to be windy and cold. Right now it's -13, so not too bad to start. Eastbound Narran Avenue between Allen and Watt, there had been a fire there earlier. Emergency crews on site, it had been closed. That still might be active. 788-3093 if you need to update the commute. The Premier here after 8, and right now, World Report.
today on Q.
I'm Garby Bailey in for Tom Power. After 8 years away, Tattoo Cardinal is returning to the stage in the new production Witch.
She is an actual person that lived way back then.
Tattoo will be here to talk about the joy she's getting from this work, the themes of resilience in the story, and the connection she's finding with the character she plays.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
The Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina start today. What is it like for athletes to walk into that opening ceremony? Well, we'll hear from people who know Olympic legends Clara Hughes, Hayley Wickenheiser, and Becky Scott coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott.
Milano Cortina 2026 Olympic opening ceremony.
The Milano Cortina Winter Games are officially underway with the opening ceremony set to begin in just a few hours. While the full program is a closely guarded secret, the gala will feature a mix of traditional opera and global pop icons. It's a massive celebration of culture before the focus turns to the competition itself. Jennifer Heil, Team Canada's chef de mission, says this country's athletes are ready to take center stage.
Canada's Olympic athletes are a rare kind of power. They unite us and they show the world what Canada looks like under pressure. Proud, respectful, relentless.
The ceremony begins at 2 p.m. Eastern, kicking off 2 weeks of international competition in northern Italy. More evidence this morning that the Canadian economy is still struggling. Statistics Canada has just released its report for January, showing the economy shed 25,000 jobs. Now, that puts the unemployment rate at 6.5%. The CBC's senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong has the details.
This breaks a pretty good little run we'd seen in the Canadian jobs market. Going back to September, Canadian employers added nearly 200,000 jobs. So there was this sense building that we were going to see some sort of a slide back towards something a little bit more approaching normal eventually, especially given all of the uncertainty that comes with the tariffs and the trade war. And we see that here. Look at the manufacturing sector. Another 28,000 jobs lost in that industry as the trade war hits harder and bites deeper. Even the bright spots aren't exactly great news, right? The unemployment rate fell, but it only fell because fewer people were out there looking for a job. Now, we did add more full-time jobs, and that's good. We saw employment rise in business building and other support services, which is also good. But the overwhelming story here is that the Canadian economy, much as we've seen, that rise since September is continuing to struggle to find its feet as the trade war drags on and businesses just sort of try to figure out how to manage their way through this. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada officially opens its new consulate in Greenland today. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand, who is in Nuuk for the ceremony, says the move signals what she describes as Canada's principled pragmatism in the Arctic. The Canadian Coast Guard icebreaker is also on the scene as a symbol of support for the region. Anand is joined by Governor-General Mary Simon and a delegation of Inuit representatives. It comes amid ongoing threats from U.S. President Donald Trump to acquire the Danish territory. High-stakes negotiations between Iranian and U.S. officials over Tehran's nuclear program are underway in Oman. Donald Trump's threat of military action hangs over the talks, a move that has placed regional stability at the forefront of the agenda. CBC senior correspondent Margaret Evans has more from northern Iraq.
The two long-term foes have both gone into the talks professing their willingness to let diplomacy have a chance. But the entire region is watching with genuine fear that conflict could be just around the corner. Nayaz Barzani is the foreign affairs advisor to the Kurdish presidency in northern Iraq, which shares a 200-kilometer border with Iran, just a fraction of the overall Iran-Iraq border.
So if there is another war, and especially a regional war, it will have devastating impacts on the security economy of all these countries.
Iran and the U.S. don't even agree on what the scope of the talks should be. Tehran wanting to keep negotiations to its nuclear program. Washington insisting that everything be on the table, including Iran's ballistic missiles, its support for regional proxies, and its treatment of its own people. The start of talks took place indirectly through mediators. Analysts say Iran will be hoping to play for time, to drag out talks long enough to see U.S. military threats fade into the distance. Some say Washington will also be hoping to extend the clock, to give it time to consider the ramifications of any military action, especially if it's aimed at regime change. Former Iraqi Foreign Minister Hoshyar Zebari says U.S. President Donald Trump injects an added element of uncertainty.
Well, this administration is unpredictable, and it does what it thinks it's right. So many people see this meeting as make or break.
He's not convinced of that, but he does believe that today's meeting will indicate the direction of travel. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Erbil, Northern Iraq.
3 young people in Nova Scotia are facing sexual assault charges following alleged hockey hazing incidents. The RCMP says that it has identified at least 3 victims, and investigators believe there could be more. Kayla Hounsell has the latest.
It is the latest example of alleged misconduct in Canada's national game. The RCMP says a youth reported being assaulted during a private team gathering in October. Investigators now believe offenses also occurred at other locations.
These are serious criminal offenses.
Staff Sergeant Mark Rose says the investigation is related to hazing incidents involving a hockey team in the Truro area, around 100 kilometers northeast of Halifax. He says officers have identified at least 3 victims, and there could be more.
We'll listen to them, we'll help them in the criminal justice process if required, or we'll just get them resources and help.
3 youths are facing criminal charges, including sexual assault with a weapon. Hockey Nova Scotia says it also immediately referred the matter to Hockey Canada's independent third party, which was established in 2022 to administer these kind of complaints.
Unfortunately, I'm not that surprised.
Author Laura Robinson has been researching sexual assault in hockey for decades. She says a significant cultural shift is still needed, but acknowledges work is being done to try to understand why the problem persists.
What has been created is an environment where boys and young men feel that they can come forward now with allegations of very serious assault and sexual assault from their own teams.
Hockey Nova Scotia says while the matter is under investigation, the youth hockey team has been suspended. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
More now on those 7 Toronto police officers among dozens of people charged in that massive corruption probe involving allegations of organized crime and a murder plot. And in a major shift, Toronto's chief of police says he's moving to ensure at least some of them don't get paid while they're suspended. Lorenda Redekop has more on the story.
It was a line people in Ontario aren't used to hearing from a police chief.
At least 4 of the 7, I will be seeking suspension without pay.
That's Toronto's chief, Myron Demkew, speaking at a news conference yesterday. For years in Ontario, anytime an officer was charged, they were always suspended with pay. Demkew says he's looking into his legal authority, and even more of those charged could lose their salary. Police chiefs in Ontario lobbied to be allowed to suspend without pay. Other police forces, including the RCMP, have had that power for years. And in 2024, the Doug Ford government passed legislation, but it only applies for the most serious charges. Under the law, an unpaid suspension first has to be approved in a hearing. Premier Doug Ford was asked about so many officers charged.
It's disturbing. It's very, very disturbing.
As for the unpaid suspensions, he says that's up to the police chief.
I have confidence he's going to make the right decision. I don't direct the police, and that's going to be up to the chief.
Chief Demkew has written to the province's independent Inspector General of Policing, asking him to look into 5 separate areas of the police service. But the Ontario Liberal Party wants a larger investigation with a full independent inquiry to identify any systemic failures and recommend changes. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
And finally today, the eyes of the world are on Milan's San Siro Stadium for the start of the 2026 Winter Games. While the Parade of Nations is the heart of the ceremony, it's an American pop icon who's providing the most talked about musical moment.
I am a dream
just beginning. Truth is I prayed and you opened my
Mariah Carey is the international headliner, but she isn't singing her own chart toppers. At the request of Italian organizers, Carey agreed to perform an entire set in Italian, including the legendary classic Volare.
Volare. Oh, cantare.
It's a move described as a brave tribute to the host nation's heritage. She joins Italian legends Andrea Bocelli and Laura Pausini, all under the theme of harmony. It's a high note start to 16 days of competition. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Song in my head all day. It's not a bad thing though, right? Love it. So opening ceremonies, Winnipeg time is going to be, Manitoba time rather, going to be 1 o'clock to watch those covered on CBC. And we have our first Olympic updates as well this morning. So at 8:25, we're going to tee up the rest of the action for the day. I'm Marcy Marcuso. We are live in downtown Winnipeg on CBC. This is Information Radio, your morning show on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Well, this hour on the show, Premier Wab Kinew is here in studio for our monthly interview. We're going to find out if he'll tell us anything more about who's interested in Churchill development or whether or not the province can pony up to help cities in Manitoba struggling with more stable funding in a new way. Just before 8 o'clock, we were once again revisiting some of the numbers. If the province were to give a stable portion of the PST consistently to cities, or whether or not a new model altogether could help our cities be on a better footing to pay for what they need. So Premier Wab Kinew is here. Right now, though, we have to touch base with Josh Crabb, who's also here with our headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. The court battle between the City of Winnipeg and developer of the Parker lands has come to an end. The Supreme Court of Canada has dismissed the appeal by Gem Equities, which is owned by Andrew Marquis. The RCMP manhunt continues this morning. For Joshua Papanicus, it comes after 20-year-old Rayanne Thomas was abducted in Pimachikamak Cree Nation. Mountie said yesterday Thomas was in immediate danger. And Brandon is starting work on a plan to boost tourism. City Council recently approved $60,000 to develop a strategy so they know where to spend money and develop what's already there. Your next local CBC News is at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Let's find out where it's cold and where we still have some warmth.
Yeah,
Abby?
we got an extreme cold warning for parts of northern Manitoba this morning, impacting mostly regions around Tuduli Lake. We're talking about life-threatening wind chills in the values of minus 45 this morning, which means frostbites can occur on exposed skin in less than 5 minutes. So you need to take it easy. But in the southern part of the province, it's more like a gray area in some parts. We're seeing cloudy conditions from Brandon through the Pembina Valley region. We're looking at temperatures across the south spread from minus 9 to minus 13 at this time. Dodo's north breeze would kick in and it's going to make it feel like minus 25 all day. So expect the mercury to fall towards minus 17 later in the day. Up north, it's frigid. We're looking at minus 22s to minus 35s at this time, and the wind chill around minus 35 close to the Churchill and Tuduli Lake region. But Winnipeg right now, minus 14, and it is cloudy outside.
All right, we still do have that issue on our commute. Eastbound Narran due to a fire emergency crews closing the eastbound curb lane of Narran between Allen and Watt. So you're staying over to pass, staying left, and if you want to update us, 788-3093. .13 is the time right now, and as I mentioned, Premier Wab Kinew is back in studio for our monthly interview. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you for being here. So you've been all over the place making headlines, and the one that a lot of us leaning into was what you said about Churchill last week. A major energy company interested in investing in Churchill's mega project, which could include a port expansion of some sort, an upgraded Hudson Bay Railway, and an all-weather road to Churchill, icebreakers in Hudson Bay, and an energy corridor that could involve transportation of oil or gas through Arctic waters. Lots of things there.
Yeah, a lot.
Is this a Canadian company?
Yep. Yeah, we're talking to a Canadian company, and it's really amazing to see the interest because of the threats to our independence, the tariffs that we've been facing from not just the U.S., but also China, but also this desire among Canadians to build up our economy. So we have this great opportunity in the north of our province because we have tidewater. We can get to oceans and then connect to others around the world. And it's just a really exciting time for our province to see this thing that people have talked about for 100 years or more now actually be just maybe a few steps away from some pretty major investments. So yeah, we were up there just a couple days ago in Churchill, also meeting with the area communities at a central point in Thompson. And again, openness, concerns for sure on the environmental side. Also, how is this going to help local cost of living, local housing, social services, protection for women and girls to make sure issues like trafficking are going to be prevented. So definitely a lot to look at, but all part of a pretty interesting time.
I think what I'll ask you, and I know obviously you're not going to say anything that you can't until there's ink on a deal. How close are you to being able to tell us more?
Well, we're working with the federal government. They've set up their Major Projects Office, and through the Major Projects Office, we've hired an outside consultant to do what they call market sounding. So they're going to go out and test the market so that we can figure out what's real in terms of, you listed energy products. We've already been doing agriculture and some critical minerals. There's probably the Northern Resupply sending goods up to Nunavut. So they're going to put that all together and kind of try to separate fact from fiction, if you will. Which of these is a real economic opportunity for our province to pursue through Churchill or Hudson Bay more generally. And we're supposed to get that back in April or May. So not saying that we'll necessarily announce a specific company going into the spring, but we should have more information to share in greater detail.
Is there one company only right now that's sort of in the game? Seriously?
Well, if you look at what I would say, no, there's a few, just to answer directly. But to give a bit of context here, when you look at the West Coast, where they've done some pretty big projects, including some that have First Nations or Indigenous governments owning a significant piece of the equity, it's usually like a consortium. So there might be one big company that's sort of the lead investor, but you'll typically see like maybe a dozen companies because these projects are so huge. And then it also opens up the ability to export for all these various companies. So again, not saying that that's necessarily where things will go here in Manitoba, but it might make sense in the future if we are going to pursue something really big that there might be a lead proponent and then a bunch of other companies working together with them.
Just last on Churchill, regarding ice breaking that would, make shipping year round. You've asked Ottawa to fast track the Transport Canada paperwork required for the icebreaker feasibility study up there.
Yes.
And these are icebreakers. People shouldn't be thinking of like the Red River icebreakers. We're talking
the
like
Alphabex, no.
Yeah, we're talking like military
Yeah.
grade, year-round shipping here. Have you heard anything back on that front about are they fast tracking this? When are we going to understand if they can open year-round?
So the paperwork should be done this week. The Prime Minister, Prime Minister Carney was very supportive of this. He's excited by everything coming together relatively quickly. The study itself, probably the fall is when we'll have that one in our hands.
I want to move to municipal funding, which is something we want to talk about. First of all, let's start in Steinbach. 200 property owners there hit with 2 months of rain in one night last September. Why not offer them disaster financial assistance?
Well, when I was reading the media reports, I actually did go into the office that day and said, let's do it. Why aren't we doing this? And so we've had our emergency measures organization, EMO, who takes the lead on natural disasters and events like this one. And they looked into the situation, and insurance is available in the area. Now, that doesn't mean that every single insurance company, like your existing insurance company, if you live in Steinbach, is going to offer overland insurance. But maybe that means you got to find a better company, one that's actually going to work with your family or your business. I don't know. So that's part of it. And then so for us to look in at something like DFAA, which is a federal program, but of course the province has the role of triggering it or assembling municipalities together to trigger it. In that case, once we looked at what is actually insurable, there's not really much left there. So again, I recognize that there's a challenge for folks because insurance companies are maybe stepping back when they should be stepping up. But the role for government in this, it's tough to find a policy grounding for us to take action. But again, my heart goes out to people. I've asked what we can do. We'll continue to look at this. If there's more we can, we'll certainly be willing to look at that.
How concerning is it that people in Manitoba aren't able to easily insure their homes and properties against some natural disasters, especially things like flooding and water backup, things that we see frequently here?
Yeah, I think that's an important question for the industry because, again, having our emergency measures folks look at it, this is insurable. You can get insurance for this. So why is it that not every homeowner's insurance policy could add this on to their package? So maybe we're actually looking at more of a consumer affairs type of angle here. So again, this is probably some more digging for us to do. But insurance for homes and businesses for overland flooding is available generally in Steinbach, even after these rain events. So I think for us now, the question is, what can we do to support the homeowners, support the business so that they can connect with that? And if, I recognize it can be a bit of a headache to switch policyholders, but I think that's something that we're going to have to look at.
Let's talk about funding for the city of Winnipeg. I just want to play you about a 45-second clip. Before 8 o'clock, we talked to Molly McCracken, who's the director of the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. They just did a study looking at what they say would be a different way of funding cities that would give them more stable funding to help with infrastructure woes. Here's what she said.
Property taxes are the bulk of the revenue for the city of Winnipeg right now. So if governments were to, because you would need the permission of the federal or provincial government to do this in partnership with cities, introduce a new income tax bracket at the top end. So the proposal in this report is to give municipalities access to personal income taxes for those earning $246,000 or more per year at a 1% rate. So that could leave, for example, $16 million more for the city of Winnipeg, which is about the amount of the deficit for this year for the city.
So obviously you live in Winnipeg, I do too. A lot of this has come up because property assessments came out. People are complaining about that, but that's one of the ways that the city finds money. A lot of people say that's not fair. What are your thoughts as Premier about changing the funding structure so more stable funding comes to the city of Winnipeg? Is it something you would ever look at?
Well, I'm not crazy about this proposal because cost of living, and I'm not really into raising taxes. We've tried to cut taxes, including the gas tax, income taxes, payroll tax, corporate tax. But when you talk about the funding for the city and other municipalities, I think we've done a lot there. We heard the call from municipal leaders saying that they wanted growth revenue, so we created a growth revenue fund. They get now a share of the provincial gas tax revenue that comes in. We've committed to operating funding that increases every year. So again, every municipality is able to plan over a 4-year time horizon, knowing that they're going to get increases. And then we got the infrastructure funding, like the strategic infrastructure basket, which is about $100 million annually for the city of Winnipeg, not to mention special avenues for funding. In the CBC web reports today, you have the RSR project in Southeast Manitoba. That's something that we're involved in. Here in the city of Winnipeg, you've got the North End Water Pollution Control Center.
Yeah, those are projects, of course, yeah.
But I think it's significant to understand, if you look at the North End Water Treatment Plant, for instance, we spent all of our bandwidth with the federal government in the last year of Trudeau's time in office in order to get that money, right? Like, it's $500 million.
Yep.
This is a huge amount of investment that's coming into the city.
I'm
just going
to interject because I want to push back on another plan then. So another idea is you talked about the portion of the gas tax, but for stable funding for cities, Saskatchewan does 1% dedicated from their PST. Quebec does that too, 2 cities. Is that something that you would look at?
Well, anytime you look at existing provincial revenues, the question is, which emergency room do you want to close?
So you pit it against healthcare spending.
Well, this money is currently supporting our hospitals, which we're making progress on hiring up. It's money that goes to supporting schools. You're about to see the school funding announcement where we're going to give increases to every school division.
So Saskatchewan can manage it. We just don't have the money.
Well, we did just give them growth revenue.
Yeah, but this is just more stable. Like 1% would, I think Molly McCracken was talking about, that would be like $300 million a
I don't know.
year.
And then if we do that, then everything's good for forever and ever. I think the point that I'm making is we have provided a new source of growth revenue within the past year. No government in the province's history has ever done that before. We've done more on operating. We've done more on infrastructure funding. So again, cost of living is important, and I want to make sure that we're taking a balanced approach here. So we got to look out for the affordability for you, the taxpayer, but also we got to invest in the future with infrastructure and funding for services. And so we've stepped up with things like that too, like the Community Connections program that was cut at the downtown library. We stepped in to fund that as well.
Thank you for being here, Premier. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the time.
That is a Wab Canoe.
Go Team Canada at the Olympics.
And he knows exactly where we're going next. That is the Premier for our monthly interview, Wab Canoe in studio. We are about to go to the Olympic report and find out what's going on with Team Canada in a moment. Remember, the Premier's here each and every month. So if you do have thoughts or questions or ideas, we're always limited on time. We try to focus on the things that are in the news that you've been writing to us, but you can always pitch us some topics as well at radio893 at cbc.ca. Winnipeg-wise, it's minus 14 as we head into news time at 8:30. The temperature is going to fall to about minus 17 this afternoon. In Brandon, it's mostly cloudy. You're still at minus 11. And in Thompson, it's now minus 32. So very, very cold up north. You're listening to CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. And your Olympic report is next.
Lots to look forward to. That's because even if the opening ceremony is slated to begin this afternoon, plenty of events are already underway. We'll check in on curling and alpine skiing in a moment. First, though, let's get a sense of Canada's readiness for the Games as a whole. To do that, we've reached Team Canada's chef de mission, Jennifer Heil, in Italy. Jennifer, what's the message you're sending to athletes as we begin these Games?
Making sure everyone knows each other and knows that we have each other's back. So, whether it's a high five in the village or a smile, that can make the difference in a real pressure-filled environment. So really embrace this opportunity, feel the joy. There's so much pressure involved in this moment, but, if they trust their training and bring the joy, I know magic's going to happen.
And Jennifer, there obviously has been so much talk in the lead up to the Games about the organization, or maybe the lack thereof, when it comes to the local Olympic Committee, the hockey arena, and other venues. What's your sense of the state of readiness from that standpoint?
Yeah, well, when I competed 20 years ago, there were cows on the mogul course 2 months before. And it was a world-class competition at a fantastic venue. So, the timetables were always going to be Italian. The athletes are not distracted by that. By all reports, the quality of the ice, both at the hockey arena and, the long track and short track arenas, are great. We're hearing nothing but positive news out of the villages where everybody's settling in. Let the other countries worry about and lose their energy over navigating the environment. Let's accept it and problem solve. We hope the athletes feel very few of those bumps, and by all accounts so far, we're on track.
But maybe no cows on the moguls course this time.
I haven't had any reports of cows on mogul courses.
Good to hear. Jennifer, thanks so much for doing this.
All right. Thanks. Great talking with you.
That's Canada's chef de mission, Jennifer Heil, who has fond memories of Italy, having won Mogul's Gold in Torino 20 years ago this week. Now, to the field of play, Cortina's Tofane Alpine Skiing Center, to be more precise. That's where the opening training run for the women's downhill was held. All eyes were on American star Lindsey Vonn. Skiing in a knee brace after tearing a ligament in a crash just last week, many wondered how Vonn would fare. Well, she finished 11th among 47 racers. I asked CBC's Olympic skiing analyst Erin Mielzinski what she thought.
It's Lindsey Vonn. I think that already her comeback was a huge success. First ranked in the downhill stand at 41 and then tearing her knee. And today was a good test. But seeing how close she is to the other women and to the other skiers and knowing her mental strength, I don't think anyone can count her out. Of course, she's the big talk, but no one can count her out right now.
she's got a huge brace on the one knee, the torn ligament, and the other knee is titanium.
Yes.
Have we ever seen anything like this before?
I know quite a few skiers have tried it before, maybe not so close to the games. It was just a week ago. Anna Goodman, my old teammate, she did it in my first Olympics. She raced in Vancouver with the torn ACL in slalom. Obviously slower speeds, faster movements. So people have tried it before. So it'll be really interesting what happens here. She feels strong. There's no swelling. She doesn't have pain. So right now it's going to be how stable it is, especially off of the jumps and with the G-forces. And then it's going to be mind over matter. And if we know anything, we know that Lindsey Vonn is the toughest mind out there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Erin.
Thank you.
Olympic skiing analyst Erin Milzinski. Now to curling.
There you go. Big win for the USA.
Canada's Brett Gallant and Jocelyn Peterman suffered their first loss of the mixed curling bonspiel this morning. As you heard, it came at the expense of the Americans, who prevailed 7-5. Rapper Snoop Dogg, who was in the crowd today in Cortina, looked pretty happy with that result. No Snoop Dogg in today's opening ceremony, but Mariah Carey and Andrea Bocelli will both perform. That goes at 11:30 Mountain Time, 10:30 Pacific on all of CBC's platforms. That is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. At 8:30, it's mostly cloudy and minus 14 in downtown Winnipeg, cloudy and minus 13 in Dauphin, minus 32 in Thompson. Good morning, I'm Josh Crabb. The RCMP says there are no major updates this morning in the manhunt for Joshua Papanicus and the search for 20-year-old Rayanne Thomas, who was abducted in Pimicikamet Cree Nation. Mounties said yesterday Thomas was in immediate danger and police put out a dangerous person alert for Papanicus. The search is focused on the northern Manitoba First Nation, but Mounties say it's possible they may be elsewhere. A judge dismissed a complaint against Winnipeg police just over a month after a rare public hearing. The complaint was filed through an independent agency that reviews police misconduct. Most complaints like it are dismissed before getting a judicial hearing. Lawyer Jean-René Dominique Quilou says that discourages people from coming forward.
I think when there's just less of positive outcomes for civilians, where we know police are not immune to misconduct, it's still concerning, right?
The complaint was filed in 2022. The man who filed it alleged police made fun of him and his girlfriend during a domestic abuse call. The lawyer who represented the officers says the evidence vindicates the officers who committed no wrongdoing. The court battle between the City of Winnipeg and a developer of the Parker lands has come to an end. The Supreme Court of Canada has dismissed the appeal by Gem Equities, which is owned by Andrew Marquis. He had appealed a decision by a court in 2025 that sided with the city. It all started in 2018 when Marquis accused the city of deliberately slowing the progress of development in the area. Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham says the two sides have continued to work together despite the court cases.
What is, the latest is the developer has requested some extra time to do some more work that they need to do, but the city will continue to work to assist the developer in getting the lands built out. We need those lands developed.
In a statement, Marquis says now that the legal proceedings have concluded, he remains focused on building housing in the Parker lands. Students, parents, and teachers from Barons River First Nation visited a northern school that has invited them in. The group got a tour on Thursday of Frontier Collegiate in Cranberry Portage. Class has been out in Barons River since the school burned down January 27th. The community's arena also burned down last year. Larry Whiteway is one of the parents who made the trip. He says losing both the arena and school have hit the region hard.
So it's almost like they're missing somebody or a home or a friend that was there close to them that they could go to. Now it's not there, and they're wondering what next.
Some students already attend Frontier. Barons River School went up to grade 9 with students leaving home to complete high school. A new wastewater treatment plant will add more capacity for population growth in southern Manitoba. 13 communities in 6 municipalities will be hooked up to the new plant, which will be built near Niverville. The plant is expected to cost $205 million. The communities rely on lagoons to handle wastewater. Niverville Mayor Myron Dick says the lagoons are reaching capacity and the new treatment plant is desperately needed.
Let's just put it this way, because the province was aware of this project coming on, they've given us a little grace.
The new facility will be able to handle double the current population of the communities. A contractor is still needed to build 100 kilometers of pipe to connect the communities to the plant. The City of Brandon is starting work on a plan to boost tourism. Council recently approved $60,000 in this year's budget to develop a strategy. Jennifer Watson is with Brandon First, a nonprofit dedicated to marketing the city as a destination for big events like conferences and sports competitions. She says events are the bread and butter of tourism in the Wheat City, but there's always room to grow.
We've got some really exciting big events on the horizon and that we're in the bid phases for, and so if we can ramp up some of those additional tourism offerings to pair with those large events, I think it's a win for everyone.
Watson says she wants the city to be ready for big events, especially as Brandon prepares to celebrate its 150th anniversary coming up in 2032. Work on the tourism strategy is currently in the pre-planning stages. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is at 9 o'clock.
All right. Thanks a lot, Josh, for the morning.
Thank you.
I want to mention the Radio Noon call-in today. It's all about the Olympics. Former Olympian Michelle Sawatsky-Koop is going to be the guest between 12:30 and 1. So if you want to ask an Olympian a question, it's your chance. She'll talk about what it's like to compete. And also you can share your memories, the performances that you loved watching. Opening ceremonies here on CBC, 1 o'clock, Winnipeg time. We are leaving you still with just one traffic note, and that is eastbound Nairn, eastbound Curb Lane, Nairn between Allen and Watts Street left to pass because of a fire there. Crews on scene. Abby is here with our weather forecast.
Yeah, across the province, we're looking at a cold day, which is on the way, marked by extreme wind chills warning as far as Tuduli Lake this morning, holding steady there. We're talking about wind chills in the valleys of minus 45. But for the southern regions, we're seeing minus 7s to minus 17, and most temperatures would drop to that region or that range all morning. Winnipeg, we fall to minus 17 later also.
Have a great weekend.
And you too, Merce.
All right, let's thank you, everyone who worked in the show this week, including that man, Mr. Abby Adeyemi, also associate producers Sierra Sanders, Chidi Akuma, May McKillop, who directed the show today, Carmen Ponto, Marshall Hodgins, Dylan Longhurst, Chloe Friesen, Sophia Peralta Barone, Jenica Sewell, and Zabina Ahmed. We are thinking about you. Our CA reporters in unit, Channelie Vidal and Jim Agapito, hosts Nadia Kidwai, Marjorie Dalhouse, Faith Fundal, and Bruce Layden. And in our unit overall in the news this week, Josh Crabb, Joni Nicolo, Megan Ketchison, Heather Wells, and Aaron Broman. YouTube producers, Darren Marash in our control room today, Travis Peterson helping this week, Corey Funk helping with producing and current affairs this week. Our producer overall in CA is Nellie Gonzalez, and our senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba is Mr. Leif Larson. Thanks everyone for your work and your time and your openness, and for making some great shows. Thanks to all of our guests this week. Thanks to everyone for listening. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Take care, everyone. Be well. Enjoy the Olympics if that's your thing, and have a wonderful weekend in Manitoba. Enjoy the province. Enjoy each other. The Current's coming up next.